Maria Prieto is suing her son's former friend, 20-year-old James Alfter, for rent and for starting a fire in her home. Maria claims James was in the process of growing marijuana.
Order. All rise. Yes, case number 393 on the calendar in the matter of Prieto versus Alfter. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Ms. Prieto, you rented a house to the defendant.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that he is responsible for a fire in your home that resulted in damage. Some of the damage was covered by insurance, but a great deal of it was not covered by insurance, and you want him to pay the balance.
That's correct.
Your out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Alfter? Mm-hmm. Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You look petrified. Are you scared of me?
No.
You should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Alfter says that your homeowner's insurance should have covered whatever losses there were. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and it was just an accident. That's your defense.
Yes.
Your Honor, I disagree.
Just. How old are you, sir?
20.
When did you move out of your home?
I've been on my own since I was about 18.
And how have you been taking care of yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Family business.
What kind of business?
Construction. Do concrete work.
Whose business is it?
It's my grandfather's.
Who else works there?
The crew, my dad, my brothers.
So it's a big business?
Yeah.
It's a lucrative business?
Yeah.
How much? Yes, try yes.
Yes.
How much do you get paid?
$30 an hour.
And you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
40-hour weeks.
So you've got money in the bank?
I'm all right.
What?
Said I'm all right. Yes.
You have a car?
Yes.
You look like you're in good shape. Do you work out?
Yes.
You work out at home or in a gym?
The gym.
You have a gym membership?
Yes.
I ask you all these questions, sir, because I'm trying to find out a little bit about you. Because this complaint says, Mr. Alfter, that the fire that started in Ms. Prieto's house, on what date?
September the 12th.
On what date did he move into the house?
He moved in July 1st.
Was started because in your bedroom, right?
In master bedroom, correct.
People usually sleep in the master bedroom, right?
Yes.
How many bedrooms were there in the house?
5.
How many people were living in the house?
Just 2.
You and who else?
Me and my roommate.
Male or female?
Male.
So that those were 2 bedrooms. You don't spend the night with your roommate, right? You each have your own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I guess you didn't want you or your roommate to get the master bedrooms, because then it would be unequal, so that you each stayed in other bedrooms.
Yes.
And you were using your master bedroom to grow marijuana. You actually hadn't brought in the plants yet, according to the complaint and the answer, but it was all set up with a whole bunch of lights, right?
Yes, there's equipment.
I mean, you weren't planning on shooting a film in there, were you?
No.
You were going to grow marijuana.
Yes.
What were you going to do with it when you grew it?
Well, I have anxiety, and I was going to try to get my card, cannabis card.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Your parents are alive?
Yes.
Did they know you were coming here today?
Yes.
Did they know that 10 million people were going to be watching you today?
Yes.
Did they offer you any warnings, sir?
Yes.
And I know that it's not relevant to the case, but I, because I am a mother, would like to know what your parents said to you.
They told me I better learn my lesson.
Both of them?
Yes.
Sounds like my kind of people. Who do you expect to pay for these damages that weren't covered by Ms. Prieto's insurance as a result of your lunacy in trying to start a marijuana farm in her house?
Myself.
Right. So why didn't you just pay her, sir? Why did you force her to come here? You know, I mean, I know that she looks lovely and she appears to be a very nice lady, but why didn't you just say, I'm really sorry, I acted like an idiot, I'm 20 years old, I'm not fully grown up yet, you know, just help me out here. It'll never happen again. I'm going to cut my hair so I can see. You know, all of those things.
The sum, that amount that she wanted was pretty high. I thought the insurance would have covered it. But I was going to pay the deductible.
Yeah, but the insurance company didn't, for instance, pay for all the landscaping around the house that was singed.
But when I moved in the house, the land or the landscaping wasn't too caught up.
May not have been too caught up. What about the fact that she didn't have the use of her house for a while?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that's my fault.
So who should pay for that?
Myself.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see the bills, please?
Sure. And I have pictures also.
Should have listened to your parents, Mr. Alfter. Father's a pretty tough guy?
Yeah.
Are you using your real name today, sir?
Yes.
Is your father's last name the same as yours?
Yes.
Look what you did to her house. Bird, look what he did to her house. You planned on smoking an awful lot of weed, sir, for your anxiety. Why don't you go to a therapist for your anxiety?
I don't know.
Well, I would try a therapist before I would start farming again.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's very anxious because he's not smart. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Say sorry.
Sorry.
Not to me.
And later today,
Your dog wasn't doing anything terrible, wasn't chewing off somebody's leg, but was taking a sunbath on her car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maria Prieto claims her son's former friend, James Alfter, started a fire in her home while trying to grow marijuana.
Who helped you with all this, sir?
I did it myself.
What about your roommate?
No, well, he helped a little bit.
Was he going to be your partner?
No.
What does he do for a living?
He works.
For whom?
He does construction, too.
For your father?
No.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Please.
Okay, as far as all that equipment he purchased, and it was worth over supposedly $6,000, and he didn't have money to pay the rent. So he had money to go out there and buy all that, plus, you know, start his little lab thing. But on the other hand, he's making $30 an hour, and he could have just stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to pay you. Even payments. I said, can you make payments? And he's like, yeah, I will. Never followed through.
He's very anxious because he's not smart. And unless he gets smarter, he's going to remain anxious. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Say sorry.
Sorry.
Not to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Actually, I feel that he should be liable for more. And I don't think the insurance company should have to pay for his ignorance.
I'm just really sorry for what I did to her, causing the problems I did.
I was at the doctor's office, and my girlfriend called me and told me that my house was on fire.
I smelled some burning, so I checked in my attic and I seen some smoke up there.
When I got there, the whole street was blocked.
So I put water on the spot that had smoke.
We had detectives, police officers, everybody.
Tried to go back to sleep and it still kind of smelled like smoke, So I was like, all right, well, I'll just go home to my parents' house and I'll stay the night there.
The room itself, when I walked in, it wasn't just the fire damage, it's just the way he set everything up. It was ridiculous.
My mom wakes me up at about 11 in the morning. The house was on the news and news said it was a meth lab.
Even though I did my homework, I did credit checks, I did everything, nowadays it's really hard to trust anybody.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Benedict versus Campbell Peterson. Step forward, please.
22-year-old former nanny, Carrie Benedict, is suing former employers, 20-year-old Allie Campbell and her husband David Peterson for unpaid wages.
Ms. Benedict, your claim is that the defendants owe you money for work that you did for them in the capacity of a nanny for their one-year-old child.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendants say that while you did, in fact, work for them for a very short period of time, your agreement was that the first week that you worked there would be a free week, which means you would not get paid for it. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you answer an ad that they put in the paper, or did they answer an ad that you put in the paper?
I had found them on gonannies.com on the internet and responded and sent them an email regarding.
So you posted your ad on gonannies.com? Is that a website?
We had two ads posted, one on GoNannies and one on enannies.com.
Okay, when did you post the ad?
Back in March.
Do you have a copy of it?
No, I don't.
Do you?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that we were looking for a nanny for...
Because that's a whole long thing. Do you remember what the ad said?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did it say?
It had regarding their occupation and that she was a model and he was a business entrepreneur. They were an active family. They needed somebody that could be flexible in their hours and be active with their child. That it was $500 a week and that any hours worked more than 40 would be compensated.
So you answered the ad?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have a face-to-face meeting prior to starting work?
Yes, we did have a formal interview.
When was that?
It was about a week before I started.
Give me the date, please.
I don't have the...
Do you have the date?
We met with her on March 22nd
Where?
at our home.
Okay. What are your work hours?
I am a wedding consultant. I work from, depending on when the weddings are, I work for...
Weddings are usually in the evening.
Yes, it is. I work till about 2 a.m.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a marketing director for K Designers, so I'm a salesman basically.
And you work during the day?
During the day and some evenings because I'm on appointments. So.
Fine. Who were taking care of the baby before?
We had a nanny before, and she moved out of state, and so I was looking for a new one. My mom did help when she could.
What was the name of the previous nanny?
Carolee.
How long did she work for you?
She worked for us for about a month.
Prior to that, who took care of the baby?
My mom.
So it's a fair statement that you've only had one nanny, according to you, for a month.
Yes.
So Carolee came to work for you and then moved.
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Right. You know anything about that, Miss Benedict?
Yes, Your Honor, I actually do. During that interview, they had said that young girl named Carolee, she was flying from Oregon, that she had found her on GoNannies.com as well, and they wanted to have the opportunity to interview her too. And initially, they weren't going to hire me. They hired her. She was there over the weekend, and they fired her, and that's why I was called, because Allie told me that the nanny that they had from Oregon had boy issues that they were not aware of, and she went back to Oregon.
So when you went for the interview on March 22nd, take your hands out of your pockets. When you went for the interview on March 22nd, you were told that they were going to interview this other girl from Oregon as well?
Yes, ma'am.
That's when you were told about it?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other girl got the job?
Yes, Your Honor.
On March 22nd or March 23rd?
Yes, Your Honor.
When were you called to say that you got the job?
I was called at 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, March 28th, and I started at 11:30 a.m.
You're Miss Campbell?
Yes.
I want to tell you something. I don't want you to play with me. See, I can tell the difference between a made-up story and a story that has the ring of truth to it. What she just told me has the ring of truth to it. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I hardly believe a word that comes out of your mouth, Miss Campbell. I don't think you'd know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Carrie Benedict claims former employers Allie Campbell and David Peterson owe for unpaid wages. The couple says Carrie was an irresponsible caretaker.
Now, who worked for you between the 22nd of March and the 27th of March?
We didn't have a nanny between then. I interviewed this girl from Oregon who I did not like, and she did not get the job.
Well, you just told me that Carolee worked for you.
Carolee-
I'm speaking. You just told me that she worked for you for a month.
Yes, she did, Your Honor.
Which month?
She worked for me between February and March.
February what?
She worked for me between February 6th, and she left March 10th.
And are you telling me that nobody watched your child between the 22nd of March and the 28th of March?
My mom did.
All right, Miss Benedict. You worked from 3/28 until what date?
Your Honor, I quit April 5th.
Why?
Because I was disrespected and yelled at for an absolutely ridiculous reason that was not my responsibility. And
When?
It was that Wednesday, just that same day. Miss Campbell had called me, yelling at me that the child had stayed the night at my home, and she was yelling at me because I didn't have the baby at her home and demanded that I bring her home in a half an hour because David had a court case and that she wanted to go with him. And I said, well, there was no communication.
What kind of court case did you have, David?
My little girl was beat up by her, and I was going to court. It was basically protective order case, my little girl.
So you had a court case?
Yes.
And Miss Campbell was accompanying you to the court case?
Yes.
Why did the baby have to be home if Miss Campbell was going with you to court? David?
Well, we wouldn't bring the baby to a court case.
Well, then why did she have to come home?
Why did who have to come home?
The baby.
I think we're talking about different dates here.
I'm talking about April 5th, when, according to Miss Benedict, Miss Campbell called her and said, bring the baby home because David has a court case. We have to leave. Is that the conversation?
Yes, Your Honor.
So my question is, why would Miss Campbell need the baby to go to your court case?
Well, because if we're going to be gone for the afternoon, someone needs to be watching her, and she was supposed to have her back at 10, and so we'd already arranged with her mother to take over at that point. So she needed to be with another sitter.
All right, fine. So let me just understand this, so I get it straight. You're saying, see, I'm not asking her any questions.
Right.
I'm asking you the questions.
Okay.
Miss Campbell told Miss Benedict to bring the child home because you had a court case and her mother was going to come to take care of the baby so that the two of you could go to the court case. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you're sure about that?
Well, it wasn't that she was coming to take care of her. We're going to take her to her mother's.
Okay, so the two of you were going to drive her to her mother's house
Before I went to court.
before you went to court.
Correct.
That's the reason why, is that right?
That's the reason why.
I want you to read what I have underlined here, sir. That's the response to this lawsuit. What does it say there?
This caused Kinsey to miss a doctor's appointment.
Yes, give it back to me.
Okay.
That's not true, is it? It wasn't a doctor's appointment that was at issue here. It was you're going to court, according to you, and taking the baby over to her mother's house so that her mother could watch the baby.
These are two separate instances, though.
Really?
There was an instance where she needed her shots and was unable to get them and did miss a doctor's appointment. And then the last one where she got fired was when, we missed a court case because she didn't bring the child back when she said she would, and we were unable to reach her for 2 hours.
It became clear to me that Carrie was too responsible to be our nanny. Therefore, I fired her that day, April 3rd.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Listen, I don't know why I'm torturing these people anymore. When somebody works for you, they get paid. You work, you do weddings, you get paid. You work, you do whatever you do, you get paid. Somebody doesn't work for you for a week for nothing. And if you have your mother as a free babysitter, that's just great. But when you hire somebody, there's no slavery in this country anymore. Ridiculous. Your defense is stupid. And I don't believe you about this other nanny that you had, allegedly for a month, allegedly who went back to someplace else. I hardly believe a word that comes out of your mouth, Miss Campbell. I don't think you'd know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
They lied about their careers, and they just lied to Judge Judy.
Oh, I just think she was jealous.
Initially, she said that she was a model.
Mad because she wasn't getting what she thought she deserved.
I found out she's an escort.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
And that he's basically her pimp.
Ridiculous. That's all I can say.
I'm just glad it's over.
24-year-old Rachel Cooper is suing her daughter's great aunt, Felicia Lisa West, for an assault and for the value of a necklace.
Now, it's case number 81 on the calendar in the matter of Cooper versus West.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Cooper,
Yes.
Miss West is the paternal aunt of your baby.
Yes.
Who's the father of your baby?
He's sitting right there.
What's your name?
Thomas Robinson.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
Is this your only child?
Yes.
And since he's sitting over there, I assume you're not together.
No.
How old is your baby?
She's 6 months.
You have a drug problem?
No, I don't.
Have you used drugs?
Yeah, before I had my baby.
Have you used drugs after she was born?
No. I drank a little bit, but...
What was your drink of choice?
Remy.
Remy.
Yes. Remy Martin. Cognac.
It's pretty heavy stuff, isn't it?
I guess, for my age.
Who do you live with?
I live with my mom now.
Who else lives with your mother?
My dad.
Your lawsuit alleges that Miss West was babysitting for your daughter. You went to get her. Miss West refused to give her to you, and she assaulted you. Miss West says that when you came to pick up your daughter, you had been drinking. She felt that the child was at risk. She refused to give you the child. She says that you, in fact, assaulted her. So, when did Miss West start to babysit for your daughter?
This was January 2nd. This was the first time she has ever babysitted for me.
How old was your daughter at that time?
She was born in November, so about 1.5 months.
And why was Miss West babysitting for your daughter?
Because I figured the father's family never sees a baby, so I figured, let me give them a call so they could see her. So in turn, they came to pick me up, and she decided to watch the baby. She offered to take care of the baby.
All right. She said what to you?
She said, oh, I could watch her for you. You know, you could go out, have a good time.
And did you do that?
Yes.
That was on January 2nd?
Yes.
What time?
This was probably in the evening around 8 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock.
Good. When did you come back?
I came back the next day.
Where did you go that night?
I was with her niece, Katie, and Lisa's daughter, and some of her nieces.
Where did you sleep that night?
At her sister's house.
Okay, so the next day you came back on January the 3rd.
Yes.
What time?
I came back around 10 o'clock in the morning.
Go ahead.
So I went over there, was with my baby for that whole day.
Was Miss West at home?
Yes, she was at home.
Okay, keep going.
So, anyways, that same day, she ends up telling me that, you know, it's time for me to go home. I said, okay. She says, but you could leave your baby here and I could watch her for you overnight. I said, oh, no, that's okay. You know, I could go home. She said, are you sure you're going to be able to take care of the baby because you've been drinking? I said, of course I'll be able to take care of my baby. I'm fine.
Had you been drinking on the 3rd?
Yes, I was drinking a little bit. It was New Year's, so, yeah.
No, the 3rd is not New Year's.
Yeah.
New Year's is December 31st. The 3rd is not New Year's. On the 3rd of January, had you been drinking?
Yes.
What were you drinking? The Remy?
Yeah.
And then you wanted to take the baby home?
Yes, so.
And she said no.
She didn't want me to take my baby home. I said, well, can I stay here? She didn't want me to stay at her house. She's like, oh, I'll take care of her. She's like, don't worry about it. Go home and relax. She's like, because, you know, you're a new mom and you do need a break, and Thomas is nowhere around to be found. He hasn't called or
keep going.
anything.
Come on, move it, move it.
So anyway, so I go home. She drops me off at home. My mom asks, where's the baby? So I said, oh, Lisa's taking care of her. She says, oh, really? So I said, would you like to call her? So she calls her, and Lisa gets on the phone and said, oh, well, do you want me to call CPS? And there's no reason to involve CPS for anything. I don't know why she said that. So we go pick up my daughter, and she doesn't know that I'm coming to pick up my daughter. I go in the house, and when I go in her bedroom, she's shocked to see me.
Who let you in?
Her husband let me in. So when I busted in the room, she was sitting with my baby. My baby was stuffed in her chest. She had a pillow behind her back, and she was sitting cross-legged. She said, what are you doing here? I said, give me my baby, Lisa. She snatched the baby. She said, no. I said, what do you mean? I can't have my baby? She said, no, do you want me to call CPS? I said, for what? Why are you going to call CPS for? So she refuses to give me my daughter. So I have to call my mom to tell my mom to come in the house saying she's not giving me my baby. So then she decides.
How did you get there?
My mom gave me a ride.
You mean your mother gave you a ride and then just dropped you off?
No, she was waiting outside for me.
Okay, go ahead.
So then she decides finally to give me my daughter. So my mom comes in the house, and I'm like, Mom, she's not letting me leave with my baby. She says, oh, no, don't let them leave. She was telling Katie and everybody in the house, don't let her leave, don't let her leave. So they block all possible entries so me and my mom cannot get out with my daughter. My baby started crying. My mom was holding the baby. So my mom said, oh, do you have a bottle so I could feed my granddaughter? Lisa's like, no, let me feed her. She tries to go to my mom and tries to tear my baby out of my mom's arms. So that's when I gave me to her. I'm like, what are you doing? No. So she comes back to me, grabs me by my jacket, and slams me all the way against the wall. Then she grabs me and slams me all the way down on the bathroom floor and starts choking me. It took 3 people to try to get her off of me. Her husband was in the kitchen, finally decides to get up to come get her off of me. And then she's still trying to fight. She's still trying to come attack me. And then when the police comes, she tells them that I attacked her, which was wrong.
Okay, Miss West, now I'll hear you.
Well, it started January the 1st. My niece and my daughter comes home with Rachel. My niece Katie tells me that Rachel called my daughter Caroline to pick her up from this hotel on West MacArthur.
Katie, stand up. Tell me what you saw when you got to the hotel.
Okay, Rachel was drinking with some guy, and the baby was just crying, and it just seemed like the baby...
How did you get to the hotel?
I drove.
Who had you heard from that caused you to go to the hotel?
My cousin.
Who were you in the hotel with?
I was with my friend. He was helping me.
What's his name?
His name is Jose.
And what were you drinking with Jose?
I'm drinking some Remy.
Go ahead.
Anyway, I took the baby from Rachel because she was crying. I rubbed her stomach. It seemed like she had colic. And I said, Rachel, do you burp your baby after you feed her? Rachel said, no, this is my first child. I really don't know what I'm doing. I said, you know what, Rachel, this don't make no sense. Give me this baby. Me and my cousins take the baby. We go get the baby some medication. Rachel is not even coherent enough to give her baby the medication.
Your Honor.
Put your hands down. I don't think you're adorable. I don't think you're cute. I'm going to hear from your mother because, quite frankly, unless your mother is totally together, I'm calling CPS on you. You understand that?
Yes.
You understand why?
Why?
Remy.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She is incapable of taking care of a child.
I'm not incapable.
Incapable. She has no judgment. Zero judgment.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Cooper says she was assaulted during a custody exchange by her daughter's great aunt, Felicia Lisa West. Felicia claims Rachel is an unfit mother and is countersuing also for assault.
Stand up. Who has legal custody of this child?
Rachel.
Well, that better change. That better change. She is in no position to have legal custody of this child. And unless somebody who's responsible has custody of this child, Child Protective Services is going to take the child and give the child to a stranger. Maybe to Miss West. Who knows? Your daughter is acting irresponsibly. Don't you understand that?
I do understand, but I do not understand the reason why Miss West had to assault her. That I don't understand.
Listen to me. I don't understand why you would allow your daughter, who was intoxicated, which she clearly was on the 3rd of January, to go back to Miss West's house and tell her to go inside and take the baby. If you felt as if you didn't want to leave the baby with Miss West and you wanted the baby to come home with you, then you go inside, and maybe you could have had a civilized discussion with Miss West. Instead, you send her inside, and she has no brain. I mean, didn't you hear what she said? This lady is telling me the truth. She went to a motel, found your daughter in a motel with your granddaughter crying, and she's sitting with some jerk drinking Remy.
No, Your Honor, my daughter was crying because I didn't know what was going on. I was holding my baby, Your Honor.
Because you didn't know that she needed to burp her.
Just a second. You didn't know what year it was,
I was
madam.
burping my daughter, Your Honor.
What were you doing in a motel with a guy drinking Remy?
Because I was expecting to see if the father would call me on New Year's to come by. That's why I got the hotel room. I was with my friend. He was helping me take care of my baby instead of the father.
He was helping you by sitting with you in a motel drinking?
He was holding her, helping me, trying to calm her down too, Your Honor.
What's your last name?
Jimenez.
Miss Jimenez, do you get it? She is incapable of taking care of a child.
I'm not incapable.
Incapable.
My daughter is well taken care of.
She has no judgment. Zero judgment. And this baby is going to get hurt. Did you just hear what she said to me, Miss Jimenez? She said she took a motel room, hoping that the baby's father would call her on New Year's Eve. And later, she's still in the motel room with Jose, drinking Remy with the baby. Do you get it? You're shaking your head. The only reason you're off the hook is that there's not enough room for you up there.
Ma'am, she
Because
took
when
my
you make
child from me.
Because when you make a baby, you're supposed to be able to take care of a baby.
And I was. And I provided a roof over her head till she decided to take my baby and leave with
Then
everything.
you go to court.
And that's what I'm doing,
He hasn't
ma'am.
been
Good.
doing anything.
Then you go to court. What?
When I took her to pick the baby, she was not drunk.
She had been drinking all day. She said she had been drinking
I wasn't
all day.
drinking all day. That's when I was drinking during the daytime, Your Honor. Then I wanted to go home with my daughter. She told me I could stay at her house, but then refused for me not to stay at her house.
I heard you. Did you know where your daughter was on January 1st with the baby in the motel? Just answer my question. Did you know where your daughter was on January 1st in the motel?
Yes.
And you
But
thought
not in the motel, Your Honor. She was at home.
she was in a motel with Jose?
Then she went there because she
So
wanted
I'm asking
him.
you, listen, I'm asking you, did you know that she was in a motel with Jose?
I did not know until afterwards.
That's what I want to know. Does it surprise you to know she was in a motel with Jose drinking?
I was surprised to know that she
That's
was
all I
there.
want. That's all I want to know. So far, maybe there's a light at the end of your tunnel. Maybe.
Your Honor, I'm
Maybe.
a very good mom. I'm a very good mom. My daughter does not want for anything. She's well taken care of.
Listen
That
to
was
me.
just that
Miss
one
West,
night.
Did you call CPS?
Yes, I did.
Did they do an investigation?
The person that was doing the investigation got sick, and I called and talked to the person that took over the case. They've been trying to contact and locate Rachel, which they have been unsuccessfully at.
Is she living in your house?
Yes.
Did she sleep at your house last week? Listen, Miss Jimenez, you answer my question.
Yes.
Did she sleep at your house every night last week?
Yes.
I don't believe you.
You don't believe her.
I don't believe you.
I'm at my house every single day, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm not comfortable. So we're going to send this to Child Protective Services, just to be on the safe side, because I'm not hearing any reasoned response by this lady to her daughter's behavior. Drunk people don't take care of children. People who drink don't take care of children. They leave them with other responsible people. And if they don't leave them with other responsible people, then they're neglectful.
I am not a neglectful mother.
No,
I was only drinking for that one day, Your Honor. I don't drink every single day.
Well, listen to me, my dear.
But
I'm speaking to you. According to you, I only asked you about 3 days, January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And according to your testimony, you drank on January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. That's according to you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mother said, I'm leaving, we leaving. So Rachel was behind me, and she said, no, get away from my baby. Get away from, I'm taking my baby. And popped me upside the head.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rachel Cooper is accusing her daughter's great-aunt, Felicia Lisa West, of assaulting her during a custody exchange.
Now, you say that she assaulted you?
Yes.
Tell me what she did.
First of all, when we all decided on January the 2nd that Rachel was still under the influence of alcohol and other substance abuse, we all decided that Rachel needed a little bit more time to get herself together. Therefore, my husband and I told Rachel we'd be more than happy to watch her until she get herself together.
You watch the baby?
The child, yes. So Rachel said, but I want to stay. I said, well, Rachel, you can't stay because I don't have enough room to house you. So my husband and I drove her home. So that was that. So my husband and I proceeded back home, got home. Then she had called and said, I want to come and get my baby. I said, let me speak to your mother. So her mother got on the phone. I said, well, the baby is fine. I said, she's asleep, and David and I, which is my husband, is going to take care of the child. Then the mother said, no, the baby needs to be home with Rachel.
No,
Rachel needs to take care of her own baby. But I said, but Rachel's not in any condition at this time. I said, you really need to pay attention to your daughter. I said, take this time to really analyze your daughter. She said, well, it's nothing wrong with her. I said to myself, well, she's a fool. I said, Rachel is on drugs. I just came out and told the mother. The mother said, oh, that's what you say. Then she hung up the phone.
Okay, there came a time that you came back to your house. Her mother brought her there. Now I want to skip to that point.
Okay, when Rachel came to my house, I was in my bedroom. The baby was asleep, and Rachel came in there. I want my baby. I said, Rachel, I've made it perfectly clear you're not in any conditions to see to this child. I said, you've been drinking for the last 3 days, and you've been smoking weed, crystal, what they call mushrooms. I said, you really need to just calm down, get yourself together. She said, no, give me my baby, give me my baby. I said, Rachel, I can't give you your baby. I said, anyway, how did you get here? She said, my mother brought me. I said, well, I need to talk to your mother then. So I told my husband, David, to go out there and see was her mother actually out there. Then Rachel would say, no, just give me my baby, just give me my baby. I said, Rachel, I'm here to help you. I don't want to call the police and report you to CPS. I said, you're not leaving me any alternative. At that point, her mother came in. Then I gave her the baby. Then I talked to her mother, Tina. I said, Rachel is not in any condition to provide for this child. But if you tell me that you're going to take care of this baby and be solely responsible for this child, I can give the child to you. Then she said, well, that's Rachel's responsibility. I'll help her. I said, oh, no. I said, you're going to tell me you're going to help her? I said, she can't help herself at this time. So mother said, I'm leaving, we leaving. Then I said, no, you have to wait for the police. So Rachel was behind me, and she said, no, get away from my baby. Get away from, I'm taking my baby. And popped me upside the head.
She's lying, Your Honor.
I don't want to hear you.
So I said, you have to stay for the police. So then she bopped me again. I said, now, wait a minute. Are you fighting? And then she just took off, and I said, I just had gastric bypass surgery. I'm not strong. And she just commenced on. So, hey, I'm going to defend my stomach and everything.
Gotcha.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Are you the victim of an assault? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Miss Cooper, you know what a hair follicle test is?
What's that? Oh, they pick the hair.
Yeah. We take a piece of your hair, and the hair will tell us whether, in the past year, you have used any drugs, because it remains in the hair shaft, and if you've used alcohol, how much. You prepared to take a hair follicle test?
I feel that there's no reason to
You
take
prepared? My question is, that requires a yes or a no answer. You say that you did not use drugs, and you don't have an alcohol problem. So my question to you is, are you prepared to take a hair follicle test that requires a yes or a no answer?
No, I'm not going to take a hair
Right.
follicle test. For what?
Correct.
I'm here for the fact that this woman assaulted me.
I don't
She's
believe she
lying.
assaulted you.
She did assault me, Your Honor. This woman is lying through her teeth, Your Honor.
Miss Cooper, now your mother knows. If I said to you, Miss Jimenez, I have serious questions as to whether or not you abuse drugs, and I can find that out very easily. Are you prepared to give us a strand of hair so we can do a hair follicle test? What would you say to me?
Yes.
Of course. What did your daughter say to me?
She said no.
Do you know why? I've been in this business for 40 years. I know why.
But Your
Copy of
Honor,
that. I'm speaking. Copy of this case will be sent to Child Protective Services. Your lawsuit is dismissed. So is your counterclaim. You would not have filed this counterclaim unless you filed the lawsuit, correct?
Correct.
We'll take care of what you wanted to do, which is at least try to have this baby protected. Child Protective Services will do a follow-up now that she's declined to take a test. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand? Now, I don't know what you do, but you got to get more together and you got to get involved. It's not up to her to take over your responsibility.
I ain't seen
That's
my
all.
baby
See
in
that
4
now?
Take care of his child.
She took my baby.
Oh, whatever. Good. Piece it.
Wait right
She
here.
took my baby.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Justice has not been served, but God will take care of her.
Most of all, I was very pleased, and I thank God for her seeing how the mother was in denial.
I see that she takes good care of the baby. You should see the baby. It's a beautiful baby.
I haven't seen my child since she was 4 weeks old. I provided a roof over Rachel's head. She didn't have to pay no bills.
Yeah, I've been drinking probably like day before yesterday, 3 days ago, but my daughter is well taken care of. I'm not an alcoholic.
Rachel she not a good mother.
Now I'm gonna put it in God's hands and pray on it and do the best that I can to get my baby and raise my child.
21-year-old Wanda Camp is suing her former roommate, Brenda David, for rent and damages to their apartment.
Now, this is case number 135 on the calendar in the matter of Camp versus David.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Camp, who is this person?
He is my witness, my coworker, also her coworker.
According to what I read in your complaint, you had an apartment that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
shared with your boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Your boyfriend went to jail.
Yes.
And you couldn't take care of the rent yourself. You had a conversation with Miss David and asked her if she would like to take over your lease.
Yes.
She said, for whatever reason, okay, she was looking for a place. She moved into your apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, she moved out, not giving you any notice, and you believe she should pay for that month's rent because
Yes,
you couldn't
ma'am.
sublet the apartment. And in addition, that she caused some damage to the apartment so that you lost your security deposit.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. David says that she paid you rent each and every month that she was there, and that it was not she who caused the damage to the apartment, but it was probably your boyfriend when he had a temper tantrum. Okay. You know each other from work.
Yes, ma'am.
When was your boyfriend incarcerated?
End of February.
When did you and Miss David have this conversation about subletting your apartment?
On March 1st, I called her because I knew that she was looking for an apartment. And on March 2nd, her and her boyfriend came over, looked at the apartment, and moved in that same day. And she paid the rent for March.
So far, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a written agreement with her?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. Okay, so it's a pretty straightforward agreement. Agreement says that she pays rent for the months that she's there, $700 a month, and that she agrees to pay the utilities from that time forward. And there's no issue of utilities because that's not part of your complaint. So you paid March.
In April.
Just you paid March,
Yes, ma'am.
$700. Did you
course.
pay April?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Did she pay April?
Yes.
$700 in April. And when did you move out?
I moved out May the 2nd.
Is that correct?
She's lying.
When did she move out?
She moved out June 1st.
She says she moved out May 2nd. What proof do you have that you moved out May 2nd?
I wasn't there. And I have also this from the apartment people. My rent was, I paid in April, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yeah.
The month that we're questioning is May.
Yes.
Tell me your name.
Brian Murphy.
Mr. Murphy, you seem hell-bent on telling me your story, sir. You work with these two ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you know about when Miss David vacated the apartment?
Well, Your Honor, I know that on May the 28th, around the end of the month of May, that me and Wanda went to the apartment to retrieve her things.
Wanda is
me.
you.
Ms. Camp.
Because I knew that we were getting evicted because she didn't pay for May.
Just a second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And it was apparent that Miss David, her belongings and everything was still at the apartment.
On May 28th?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of belongings were still in the apartment on May 28th?
There was a rundown couch. There was food still in the refrigerator. There were her clothes. I mean, it wasn't like, there was nobody living there. Somebody was living there.
She gave me the couch, her rundown couch.
Just a second, just 1 second.
Girl.
Listen to me.
I don't mean to start down.
Listen to me, Mr.
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. They are harassing me.
Shh, just a second.
I think something's wrong with her.
Just a second.
That's crazy.
But I'm the one with the eyebrows.
1, 2, 3, and you're out of here. Do you understand? I'm asking you questions, madam.
Sorry.
Did you have clothes in the apartment on May 28th?
No, ma'am.
Fine. Where did you move on May 2nd?
To an undisclosed area because you're harassing and stalking me.
We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then you're out of here.
You don't have to do it no more. You don't have to do it anymore, ma'am.
I want to see a lease on an apartment that starts May 2nd.
I live with my mother. I can't, but my mother doesn't give me a lease.
The reason why she moved in
I know.
with me, I'm sorry.
Just a second. Just a second. When did you move in with your mother?
I moved in after I moved. Look, I moved in May the 2nd, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Fine. Your mother's name?
Come on now. You don't need to. I live with Brenda David. I don't need to know. I'm not going to talk about my mother on TV. I don't even like her.
I don't believe you.
Oh, well.
I don't believe you.
That's fine, ma'am.
Good. Okay. Now, let's talk about the damage to the apartment.
Okay. Me and him went to the apartment May 28th. Her stuff was still there. The door frames for the front door was broken, like somebody just kicked it in. And when I called her, when I was in the apartment, I said, Brenda, I'm coming here to get my stuff because we're getting evicted. She said, don't do anything with my stuff. I'm going to have my stuff out by June 1st. And I said, I'm not doing anything with your stuff. I'm just taking my stuff out of here before it's on the streets. So the door in the front door was broken. The blinds were broken, stains in the carpet. The master bedroom door was also broken, like she locked herself out.
Do you have photographs of the apartment?
No, I don't have photographs, but I have a list of the damages that the apartment...
Do you have a letter from the landlord?
Yes,
I'd
that
like to see
they
it,
sent me
please.
what I owe them for the damages.
Miss Judge Judy?
I'll be with you in a minute.
All right, good.
What furniture, Miss David, did you leave in the apartment when you moved out?
Her furniture that she gave me.
Okay, so she gave you furniture.
She let me use furniture.
No, just a second. Well, first you say she gave you furniture.
Gave me, loaned me, whatever. I wouldn't take her furniture.
Oh, just a second. Did she give you the furniture or did she loan you the furniture?
She loaned me the furniture.
What efforts did you make to get the furniture back to her?
I left it in the apartment. It's her apartment. Note, Miss Judy, when the lease agreement began, it was not just I moved in and the apartment was brand new. I moved in later in the lease. Look at, yes, please, put your glasses on, look at the dates. This young woman, I moved into the apartment months after her drug-dealing boyfriend.
Her abusive, black-eye-given boyfriend.
So listen to me.
Okay.
This is not
my turn.
This is not a discussion between the two of you.
I apologize.
This is not a discussion between the two of you.
But no.
Miss David, listen to me.
Yes,
I'm a
ma'am.
very good judge of...
Okay, I know I've already shared 1,000 times.
You're not showing off your best side, madam.
Ma'am, I'm
Do you understand?
This is not the best time
do
on
you,
my side.
Do you
Look what's beside me.
understand? Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You're
I'm
not
sorry.
showing off your best side. Now, I don't know if you have a good side, but certainly you're not showing
I'm
it
so
off
sorry,
here.
but look what's on my side right now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you don't believe me, then so be it. The fact is this young woman is harassing me. She came to my job. He was there. They called the cops. She had 2 women. They sat in my car. I'm going to tell you what, do it again.
And later today,
We ran into financial difficulty, then we ran into more financial difficulty, and we lived with them 19 days, and they had booted us out.
You wouldn't have lived with me 19 minutes.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wanda Camp says former roommate Brenda David owes for rent and damages to the apartment. Brenda is countersuing, claiming Wanda is stalking her.
Listen to me. I don't believe that you moved out of the apartment and moved your I'm speaking! Fine. I don't believe that you moved out of the apartment on May 2nd.
Okay,
I don't believe that you moved.
And then tell her to leave me alone.
I'm speaking. And I don't believe that even if you left in May, your clothes and other things were gone in May. As long as there's stuff of yours that's in the apartment, you haven't vacated the apartment.
Ma'am, the thing never left was her things. And if you don't believe me, then so be it. The fact is this young woman is harassing me. She came to my job. He was there. They called the cops. She had 2 women. They sat in my car. I'm telling you what, do it again.
Oh, excuse
Judgment
me.
for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,630 and your counterclaim for harassment is dismissed. I'm speaking!
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you pay the money, she will leave you alone. She doesn't want to get stuck with your bills for what you did to the apartment and rent. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ma'am. Come on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you bet.
Stay right there. Yeah.
I'm just playing. I don't do that
understand.
for real. Come on now, look
Yeah,
at
do I look threatened?
It was nice meeting you, Miss Shylin. We were lovers. But she needed to get over it. And, now we're doing all of this, and it's just terrible, and I feel really bad about it.
I was living there with me and my baby and my boyfriend.
She knows she still loves me. She just needs to stop. She still loves me. Look at her breath. Look at they love me.
I think you have the wrong girl.
She knows what's going on. That's all that matters.
Oh, no. Something's seriously wrong with her. She needs help.
She caught me with another woman, and she knows it, and it's a total love triangle.
Oh, my God. Crazy. With the capital C.
I still love you, Wanda.
18-year-old Maritza Lopez is suing her former high school classmate, 18-year-old Heather Landry, for attacking her in a mall. Maritza claims Heather is carrying a high school grudge.
All rise. Now, this is case number 147 on the calendar in the matter of Lopez versus Landry. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Lopez, it is your claim that the defendant assaulted you in a mall.
Correct.
And you want your medical expenses paid. Miss Landry says that you actually started up with her by throwing a can of soda on her. She says nobody was really injured in this incident, but that clearly you were the aggressor. You know each other from high school, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's my understanding that there was an unfortunate incident where you actually hit Miss Landry in high school.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
It was probably 4 months before graduation.
Had you been friendly before this incident in high school?
Yeah, I've known her since junior high.
Tell me about the incident in the high school, Miss Landry.
It was like a little party, a little barbecue. And I was giving this guy a ride home, which happened to be like her boyfriend, I guess you can say. And she had came in the house crying hysterically to talk to him, and she was talking to him outside. And I had to go because his cousin was sick. And so I went out, I gave him about 20 minutes to talk, do whatever they had to do. And then I went out there and I told him, we need to go. Are you staying or are you going with me? Because I needed to leave. I needed to get the sick guy home. And she got in my face and she was like, can't you see I'm crying here? Blah, 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 yelling at me. And I was like, I don't care. I just need to go. So he needs to make a decision. Then out of nowhere, she just hit me.
Okay. And she apologized for that?
No. She did not apologize.
Never apologized to you?
No.
Okay, well, I can imagine you were pretty angry at that.
Yeah.
I can imagine you were.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now when was this incident in the mall? On what date?
The May 3rd, 2006.
Tell me your version of the events of that day, Miss Lopez.
Okay, well, I was working at the mall at a store, and me and my manager decided to go get something to eat, so we ordered food from a restaurant there. I went to go get the food. As I walked in, I noticed that Heather and her friends were just sitting there. And, I just didn't think anything of it. I just sat down, told the waitress that I was here for the pickup. I got my food and I walked back. So as soon as I got there, went on my 10-minute break, came back out. That's when I noticed that Heather and her friends were there.
In the store?
Right, in my store.
How many stores are in the mall? Would you say? Miss Landry, how many stores would you say were in the mall?
Maybe 40, 45.
40 stores. How many girls were you with that day?
I was with 3 of my coworkers.
So there were 4 of you all together?
Yes.
How much after you saw Miss Landry at the food court did you see her in the store?
I think from the time I walked back and I went on my 10-minute break, it's probably 15.
15 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes to probably
Okay, good. All right. So you came out, you saw Miss Landry there with 3 of her friends, and what happened?
Basically, my assistant, Stacy, she came to me and I was just telling her, hey, do you know who's in here? She's like, no, who? And then she hadn't noticed. So she looked and then she's like, don't worry about it. She's not going to say anything. I was like, I'm not even worried. I'm just, it's pretty obvious that she came to my store out of all the stores in the mall. So she's like, well, do you feel uncomfortable? And I was like, I'm just here, whatever. I really don't care. She's like, well, how about you just go on a 3-minute break and go get me something to drink. So as I went to go get her soda and then I started walking back, I noticed that there was Heather and her friends waiting for the elevator. And I could just continued walking to my store, and all of a sudden I see her walking towards me, and I was like, great, what is she going to tell me? The first thing that came out of her mouth was, seriously, why do you still talk about me? She started saying about high school and how this is my opportunity to do something to her. I've been always talking, saying I want to kick her and all that stuff. When she was just basically giving me an opportunity to do it. And I just told her, you know what, you need to get over it. It's high school. She probably got annoyed because I kept saying, you need to get over it, you need to get over it. I was just repetitive throughout the whole thing.
And then what happened?
And then out of nowhere, she just punches me on my left side.
And then what happened?
So obviously I pushed her away. That's probably when the soda fell on her. I seriously did not want to hit her back. My first reaction was just to push her away or hold her down because I was working. I'm like, what am I supposed to do, really? I don't want to lose my job, and at the time I was getting promoted as assistant manager, and I knew I was probably going to lose opportunity with the regional manager.
That all didn't go through your mind in a second. She punched you, according to you. You pushed her, soda fell on her. What happened next?
Basically, she was just she's probably swung at me as I tried to hold her 3 times. So it's total maybe 4 clean punches on this side.
Did you hit her?
No, I didn't hit her at the time. Throughout, probably towards the 4th time she hit me, I was like, I'm just going to defend myself because nobody's jumping in, nobody's coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. What kind of medical treatment did you receive?
It was just basically a checkup. He gave me medicine. I have the hospital bills right here.
I'd like to see the bill. Do you have photographs?
Yes, actually I do.
Okay. Now I'll hear you, Miss Landry.
Okay. That May 3rd, me and 3 of my coworkers were out to lunch at Red Robin, and my back was not facing her. I didn't see her at all. My friend Caitlin had noticed her, and so when she had told me, I turned around and I looked back, but I didn't see her anywhere. So we were still eating, we were chatting a little bit, finished up our meals, we paid, and then my friend Brandy that was with me, she wanted to get some sunglasses. And I had bought in some in Anchor Blue. That's the only thing I buy there. So we went up there, we looked around for a second, didn't see anything, and we left. We were walking out towards the elevator, waiting for the elevator to come down, and we're standing there facing the elevator, and they hear my name, and I didn't hear it at first, and I turn around, and I see Maritza calling me. So I start walking towards her, what do you want, And she basically tells me, we still have stuff we need to take care of from high school. We never finished it, blah, blah, blah. And I told her, it's been over a year. I haven't seen you since then. I really don't care to bother with you. I'm over it. I don't need to have nothing to do with you. And we were going back and forth for maybe 30 seconds. I don't know where she throws her soda literally on my face. I was drenched in Sprite or some sticky Sierra Mist or something. And I couldn't really see at first. And my first reaction was just to push her away from me. And then we started going at it. I'm pretty sure I had the first hit, actual hit. And we were going at it for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then it was over with, in a matter of seconds. It was no big, fight.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did you buy anything in her store?
No, I didn't.
How long were you in her store?
About 10 minutes.
That all doesn't make sense, Miss Landry.
And later today.
He was told not to go on the computer. He turned around and went into the adult sites. That's why we didn't want him to do it. Plus the fact that he's done it to 2 other computers for the same reason.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maritza Lopez claims she was punched in the face by former high school classmate Heather Landry. Heather claims Maritza threw a soda in her face.
Who is this?
This is Maritza. She's one of my coworkers.
Maritza, you have a last name?
Ramos.
You were there on the 3rd of May?
No, not there at that actual fight. I wasn't there.
So how was she relevant?
Because after that altercation, about 2 days before I went to court for that, Maritza had showed up at my job looking for me. She sent a friend in my job asking my manager for me if I was working. He had said, yeah, I was working.
Don't listen to me. What are the names of the 3 co-workers who were with Miss Landry on May 3rd?
Kaylin, Brandy,
Kaylin?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes, and Kelly.
How long have they been working at the same store as you?
Brandy's been there for about 3 years.
3 years. She still work there?
Yes.
Good.
Kelly, she doesn't work there no more. She was there for a year. She quit. And Caitlin's been there for about a year.
Still there?
Yes.
Now you can sit. Miss Landry, why would you bring someone who wasn't there on May 3rd and not bring the two co-workers who were there on May 3rd and who can support your story?
One of the, Caitlin, she was actually supposed to come, but she got food poisoning this morning. She was really sick before we came over here, so I brought Maritza Ramos because after the...
What about the other co-worker?
Brandy's still there.
So why didn't Brandy come?
Because she couldn't get the day off of work.
That's a lot of excuses. Okay. Some things make sense and some things don't make sense. What doesn't make sense is why Miss Lopez, who is working at the precise time that this happens, would start up with you when you had 3 women with you. She might start up with you if she had 3 women with her or 2 women with her. But I don't get the sense that she would start up with you, Miss Landry, when you are a group of 4 and she is 1 person. Because that's stupid. That's number 1. Number 2, the mall has 40 stores. Here, after you had lunch, you and your 3 friends, within 15 minutes, ended up in a store where she works.
It was not within 15 minutes.
Half hour. I mean, how much time do you have for lunch? 4 hours? Only I get 4 hours for lunch.
We weren't on our lunch break. We were just out to lunch.
I see. So you were just out to lunch and had the whole afternoon. Did you buy anything in her store?
No, I didn't.
Did anybody buy anything in her store?
Not that I know of, no.
How long were you in her store?
About 10 minutes.
That all doesn't make sense, Miss Landry. What makes sense to me is that you slugged her, you got even for the slug in high school, and you're going to pay her medical bills. That makes sense to me. She's not charging you for pain and suffering. She's not charging you for anything else. She wants her medical bills paid. You figured you got even. You're getting even cost you $526. Judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They wrote me a ticket for battery, like misdemeanor battery.
I basically hit her back by throwing her a soda.
I went to court. The court was dropped. End of story, you know?
Ever since high school, she continued egging my car. Really immature.
I mean, it's high school. Can she get over it?
23-year-old Stuart Thomas is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old Latasha Williams, for having him falsely arrested on domestic violence charges.
Now it's case number 86 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Williams. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Thomas, you and the defendant were involved in a relationship. That relationship produced 1 child, a little girl.
Yes, ma'am.
And you currently have full custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
Your complaint is that some time ago, Miss Williams had you arrested for assault, domestic violence. You spent a couple of days in jail. Subsequently, you defended that case for 2 years. Miss Williams never showed up in court, and the case was dismissed. Miss Williams says that you did, in fact, behave in a violent manner that day. You did, in fact, assault her, and she had every reason to call the police. Did he assault you on that day, Miss Williams? How many times have you been assaulted?
Say 3 times.
By whom?
Stuart Thomas.
Was this the first, second, or third time?
It's the 3rd time.
So the last time. Is that right? What was the date?
December the 20th.
Where were you?
I was at his house.
Where was your daughter?
She was there.
How old is your daughter?
She's 7.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
What are their ages?
I have a 3-year-old and a 7-month.
So only the 7-year-old was there?
Oh, no. My 7-year-old and my 3-year-old was there. At the time, he was 4 months.
Who's the father of that child?
His name is Curtis.
So you had a relationship in between Mr. Thomas and this event on December 20th, 2003. Okay, so you tell me what happened.
The night before
Put your hands
this had
down.
happened, Judge Judy, he threatened to kill me and my kids. He said he was going to kill the whole family.
So why didn't you leave?
Out there where he lived at, the last bus that I already ran, I didn't have no way home.
Do you have a telephone in your house?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you call somebody?
I had no one to come pick me up.
Why didn't you call the police?
I was trying to make it work with him.
All right, so you weren't so worried. You stayed over. And what happened the next day?
The next morning we woke up.
So you slept in the room with him?
I slept in the living room. He was in his room.
You slept in the living room?
Yeah, I slept in the living room. He was in his room.
Go ahead.
Okay. We woke up. He had an attitude. After that happened, he was like he wanted us to leave. He started...
Okay. He said what? He said, I want you to leave?
Uh-huh.
And what did you say?
I told him I would leave. I had to get my kids together.
And how were you going to do that?
Put their clothes on, and we was going to leave, and we were sitting in a chair. He knocked me and my little boy out the chair.
How did he do that?
With his fist. He just, knocked us out the chair. And we fell backwards. My little boy hit his mouth on the floor, which didn't nothing happen, but he hit his mouth on the floor. When I got ready to call the police at that time, he snatched his phone wires out the plug. I went downstairs. I used a woman's phone. I came back upstairs. I told him we was leaving. He hit me in my mouth.
Just a second. Why did you go back upstairs and tell him you were leaving? This is a man who's just punched you, Miss Williams, knocked you over with your baby. Now you're downstairs and he's upstairs, so he's no longer a threat to you. Why did you go back upstairs to tell him you were leaving?
I went to get my kids. My kids were still up there, Judge.
Well, what were your kids doing up there? I thought the baby was in your arms.
I sat him down. He was still up there.
Just a second. You left the baby upstairs?
Yeah, the baby.
With him?
Uh-huh.
And you left your daughter, where was she?
She was upstairs.
And you went downstairs and you dialed 911.
Uh-huh. Police came out. They looked at my face and they seen where he had busted my lip. They asked him, did he hit me? He said no, but they had seen it and they locked him up.
All right, Mr. Thomas, tell me your version of the events. What happened that day, please?
It all started off December the 22nd of 2003.
22nd?
Yes. She had called me previously the day before and told me she was about to get put out and she had nowhere to go. I told her, you know what, you have my daughter, come live with me. You know, you have my daughter. I want to make sure my daughter's not homeless.
What date did she call you? Was that the 22nd?
21st.
21st. So she was just there for one day?
Before this ordeal happened, yes.
How long had it been since you hadn't been together?
We had not been together for a while, but honestly, we were still having sex.
That's honest? So she called you and said she was about to be put out, and you
Yes.
told her to come?
Yes, I was like, yes.
And she came with both your daughter and this child from another relationship?
Yes, and I was willing to put up a house for them.
Okay. So what happened?
I came home from work. I used to work at a bar/restaurant. I came home one night. It was probably late. She accused me of cheating, and I told her, look, you know, I'm doing this for you. You can leave my daughter here, and you can go. She left, went downstairs from what she said. I don't know where she went, and called the police and came up with this story about how I hit her and did this, that, and another. And she said I had a gun and accused of me of trying to kill them. The cops tore my house up.
Yeah, I know it says here that you told the police that there was a gun.
Yeah, my house is so small that you could have been in the kitchen and spit into the bathroom. Cops tore my house up looking for this gun. There was no gun. And for another thing that she said, if there was any bruises or anything on her, the Commonwealth of Kentucky would have took that case up no matter what. No matter if she didn't show up, no matter if I didn't show up.
There was... Who were you?
I'm her witness.
To what?
Because the reason why they got in trouble, he was talking to me on the phone, and that's the reason why they got into it. Because when they were getting back together, we were also still talking, still having sex, if you want to do not, whatnot. Basically, what happened was he was playing both sides of the fence.
I don't care, madam. This is not a drama. All I'm interested in, put your hand down. Were you there on the 22nd of December?
No, he called me afterwards, after he got out and was bragging about it, though.
No.
Just a second. Now, you say that he called you after his arrest?
After he got out, yes, ma'am.
What date was that he called you?
I'm not for sure about the date, but it was after Christmas.
All right. You are no longer together, I assume?
No, ma'am.
For how long haven't you been together?
We was together. We started going in 2000 in December, and we broke up 4 years because he cheated on me and had sex with her.
All right, good. So you're not crazy about him. I'd like you to tell me what you claim he said to you when he called you. Look at me. And I want you to be very, very careful. I want you to tell me what you claim he said to you when he called you after Christmas.
He was like that.
Wait, just a second. Where were you when he called you?
I was at home.
And where was he?
At home.
And you hadn't seen him since he got out of jail?
No, ma'am.
Who called whom?
For sure he called me.
Are you sure that he called you?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sure.
And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you? He said hi.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did
hi,
you say?
And I was like, well, how you doing? What have you been up to? And he was like, well, I've been locked up. It's like, well, how did you get locked up? Well, Tasha got me locked up. I said, well, how did Tasha get you locked up? Well, she says I hit her and tried to shoot her with a gun or whatever, but I'm not worried about it because I'm going to beat it. I was like, did you do it? And he was like, I'm not going to say nothing. They're going to incriminate me in the future. I was like, okay.
Did that conversation take place?
No.
Sit down.
Yes, and...
Shh.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Judge allowed you to have therapeutic visits with the child.
She wanted to make it seem like I was the one hurting my child, which he's the one hurting. I got proof right here, Judge Judy.
And later today,
He took the car, despite the fact that this was your car, and they found the car burnt to a crisp. According to you, she's responsible to pay off the car loan.
Yes, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stuart Thomas claims ex-girlfriend Latasha Williams had him falsely arrested for an assault. Latasha claims Stuart hit her and set her shoes on fire.
Miss Williams, Mr. Thomas was granted custody of your daughter when?
November the 23rd, 2005.
You were granted visitation?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a full trial after Mr. Thomas was granted custody of your daughter?
No, ma'am.
You consented to him having custody?
Huh? No.
If you didn't consent to him having custody, madam, then there had to be a trial, a hearing.
Okay, the judge gave him custody of her. We went back to court, and then nothing happened.
Do you have the order of custody?
Yes.
Can I see it, please?
There's a great story behind it I think you should read, and it will tell you about the character of Latasha Williams.
All right, so there was a hearing. Both of you who attended the hearing. Neither one of you was represented by counsel. Who are you?
I'm her fiance. Ray Sean, yeah, there was no hearing on that case.
There was a hearing. I just read it. Sit down.
There was no hearing on that case.
Sit down, sir. There was a hearing. You think the judge is lying?
Yes.
The judge is lying, yeah.
Judge Judy, she lied. Judge Judy, just judge. She lied through the whole thing. He lied.
Just a second. Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Does your child go to a special school?
Yes, ma'am.
Because of a handicapping condition.
Yes, ma'am.
And you received a disability check for the child because of this handicapping condition.
I received a disability check. And
You received a disability check.
One time.
Listen to me very carefully. This is all evidence that the judge took at the hearing. Your statements are contained in this order.
We wasn't there.
Get him out of here, please.
Louisville's a long way from her, buddy.
Miss Williams, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Try to appreciate what I'm saying, because I'm only going to say it one more time. Because there was no jury, because there was no fanfare, does not mean there wasn't a trial in the family court. There was a trial. There was testimony taken. The judge quotes you here and says you gave testimony that sometimes you let this little girl live with your grandmother. Sometimes you let your little girl live with your mother. That's testimony. The judge has no stake in lying about whether or not testimony was taken. And because there wasn't a jury and it didn't look like Perry Mason, doesn't mean that there wasn't a trial. There was a trial. Now, after this trial, he was granted primary physical custody. And my question to you, Miss Williams, is you were granted visitation. During the time you were granted visitation, did you ever take the child to a hospital alleging that Mr. Thomas had abused this child?
Yes, ma'am. And
just a second. On what date did you take the child to a hospital?
January the 29th.
Can I see the report, please, of the hospital?
I have it right here.
I'd like to see it.
There you go.
And I have this.
Just a... What did you tell the hospital your complaint was?
When my daughter told him that he had beat her at school for crying, my mama touched my daughter's leg the night before. 2 days before I took her to the hospital, Judge Judy.
2 days before.
We picked up at the courthouse. She was happy to see us because she hadn't seen us in a while. The whole time he had her, he would bring her like once.
Listen to me. If you hadn't seen her for a while, this was one of the first visitations that you had on the weekend after he got custody?
No, the first one
was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
And you took her to the hospital complaining that he had beaten her?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the result of the investigation,
I don't
please?
have the result of the investigation, but I still have my daughter, and I have something from the judge and the CPS
Can I
report
see
saying
it,
that they don't
please?
even believe her. Because, I mean, if she was being abused...
This report believes that Child Protective Services believes that the mother is untruthful, that henceforth you were to only have supervised visitation with the child, mother to have only therapeutic visits with the court until further order of the court. Has there been a subsequent order?
Yes, and she still has not seen her daughter because she's too lazy to get up and go to 7 counties.
So are you telling me that the last time you saw the child was sometime in January?
That was the last time I seen her.
Judge allowed you to have therapeutic visits with the child.
Because Judge Judy wanted to make it seem like I was the stupid one and I was the one hurting my child, which he's the one hurting. I got proof right here, Judge Judy.
Listen, there is no question in my mind that the order that was made in this case after just a brief hearing today, and this was a trial, by the way, madam, so that just because there wasn't a jury here, it was a hearing, that the court made an appropriate order with regard to custody. My question is, do I believe that you were assaulted back on either the 20th, as you say, or the 22nd of December 2003? First of all, I don't believe you this much, because the fact that you have the absolute vivid, almost perfect recall of a conversation that was meaningless to you actually 3 years ago and would come to court to testify on her behalf today suggests to me that you have a personal axe to grind with regard to the plaintiff. So I don't believe you. Second of all, the statements that Ms. Williams made with regard to the events of her going upstairs after this alleged assault, when she had perfect opportunity to leave the house, wait for the police outside, and then go upstairs, suggests to me that she was in absolutely no fear of Mr. Thomas on either the 22nd or the 20th of December of 2003. I absolutely believe there was no basis for his arrest, no basis for his being taken into custody. Are you currently paying support for this child? Why not?
I haven't gotten anything from the judge to pay support.
You don't need anything from a judge to pay
She told
support?
me that she was going to send me a paper saying
You
to
don't
pay.
need anything from a judge to pay support, madam. This is your child. You're supposed to pay child support.
I was taking care of her, Judge Judy.
Well, you're not taking care of her anymore. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He wants money.
No, it's not about money.
That's all it is. It's a money thing.
Me, my daughter, and my fiance being happy.
It was crazy. I don't have nothing else to say.
That's it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lovelace versus Smith. Step forward.
21-year-old Edward Lovelace is suing his ex-girlfriend, 20-year-old Nicole Smith, and her mother, Patty, for misappropriating money meant to pay a traffic ticket.
Ms. Smith, is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This gentleman was your daughter's boyfriend for a while.
Yes, he was.
He lived in your house?
Yes, he did.
When did he live in your house?
From March 9th, 2005 until December 2005.
Was he working at the time?
Not when he first moved in, he wasn't.
When
About
did he-
first 2 months, he was not working.
But he got a job?
Yes, but didn't pay rent except for 3 months.
When did he pay rent?
He paid $150 towards rent in June or July.
When next?
Before I left truck driving was in September. I'd say another $150 about August.
In August, and then?
And then he paid $300.
When?
For December.
December what?
15th.
When did he move out?
Right before Christmas.
When next?
And then the $400 check, right when he moved out.
When?
About the 17th, I guess, of December.
So he gave you a check for $300 on December 15th, and he gave you another check for $400.
Right.
2 days later.
Yes.
All right, good. This is what the case is about, Mr. Lovelace. According to your complaint, you were driving a truck that
Van.
belonged to your girlfriend, or a van that, don't speak unless I ask you a question, that was still in her uncle's name, but her uncle had given it to your girlfriend.
Yes.
You were driving, and you ran a red light.
Mm-hmm.
They caught you on the camera,
Yes.
and you got a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Ticket was $330?
Yes.
When did you get the ticket?
Oh, I believe it was the beginning of September.
And there was some problem because since the truck was in the uncle's name, arrangements had to be made to get the ticket in your name so that you could pay the ticket. It is your claim that you gave the defendants $400 to pay that ticket and whatever other miscellaneous
They
expenses
needed
there
cigarettes.
were.
Neither of them were working.
And they did not pay the ticket.
No, they didn't. They switched the ticket into my name.
When did they do that?
I'm not sure the date.
When did you do that?
It was about 2 months after he moved out.
So in February, you had tickets switched to his name.
Because there was...
Shut, don't! I'm not speaking to you.
Okay.
There was going to be a bench warrant.
I'm just asking you whether or not you switched the ticket
Yes.
into his name. 2 months later. Uncross your hands.
I cover my belly.
When were you notified that there was going to be a bench warrant for your uncle?
I was told by the plaintiff.
By the plaintiff?
That's not true, Your Honor.
Shh. When you're lying, you always make a mistake. Let me find the mistake. Okay? Because their story doesn't make sense to me. Their story of this $400 gift 2 days after you paid $300 in rent doesn't make sense to me.
He was moving out with no notice.
So what? He doesn't have to give you any notice. According to you, he lived there for 9 months and hardly paid you any rent. So you weren't relying on his money. He doesn't have to give you any notice. The reason he gave you the $400 was to pay this ticket, not rent. He had already given you $300 in rent, and the problem was you got annoyed with him for moving out. So you said, well, listen, I'm going to take this money, I'm going to use it for myself, and then I'm going to have the ticket switched in his name. They're going to issue a warrant for his arrest. He's going to have to pay it again. That's outrageous. Who broke up with whom?
I broke up with her, Your Honor.
Right. How did I know that? And according to you, he left you with some credit card stuff, that he charged things on your credit card. Is that right?
A couple things.
Couple of things that you were annoyed at.
No.
Well, you say here in your answer that you were annoyed at that.
No, I was just stating the fact that he owes me money too, but we both...
Well, he owes you money too. So what you're saying is he owes you money too, but he gave you $400 for the rent. Is that what you're saying?
He gave it to her.
Baloney! He gave you the money to pay the ticket, and you had no right to use it for your own purposes.
He told us that he was giving it to us to pay the rent so we wouldn't get evicted and be on the streets.
Let me explain something to you, madam. He had just given you $300 on the 15th. That's according to you. 2 days later, he gave you another $400. How much was the rent?
Pardon
How
me?
much was the rent?
$600.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. Your conduct was outrageous.
Thank you.
He's finished with you. You have to say goodbye. Put a period. You're not supposed to do the wrong thing. And you did the wrong thing. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He wanted me to pay the ticket, and he didn't want to have to, or get the point on his license.
I asked her for the money, and she refused to pay it.
He told us when he gave us the $400 check that it was for rent. And then now he's saying it's for paying the ticket that he got in our van.
I paid rent that month. Why would I just give her an extra $400?
I just want it behind us. I never want to see him again.
Gloria Ross is suing her former co-worker, Kevin Baum, for damages resulting from false charges of an assault. Kevin says he stands by his accusation.
All rise. That's case number 75 on the calendar in the matter of Ross versus Baum.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Ross, you and the defendant worked together for a period of time. According to your complaint, you became his supervisor at some point, and you lost that particular job. You were demoted and transferred out of that location as a result of what you claim to be false charges of assault that were filed by Mr. Baum. How long did you work together, Miss Ross?
I started in July 1st, so we worked together ever since then.
July 1st of 2005?
Correct.
And what kind of business is it?
It's an adult novelty bookstore.
When did you start working there?
August of 2002.
And what was your job there?
Clerk.
And yours?
I was sales clerk when I first started.
And when were you promoted?
On February 9th.
And you became what?
Manager.
And when was this alleged assault?
4/18/06.
So, Mr. Baum, I'm going to come to you. I'd like you to tell me your version of the events of 4/18, since you were the complainant in that case.
Okay. On that morning, she came into the store. I was arranging DVDs. She came up to the desk. She started to go towards to get to the money. I came up, from the side, and I started to talk to her about the schedule that she had given me. This has been a constant battle of schedules since she became manager.
Why?
I have no idea. I had worked the same schedule for 3 years, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, from 9 o'clock p.m. till 10 o'clock a.m. For some reason, she thought I didn't need that schedule anymore and started scheduling me at times that she knew I was not able to work and not able to be there.
Why couldn't you be there?
Because I have a car problem. I only have one car. There's two of us that have to work the same schedule.
Okay, so you started to have a discussion about the scheduling.
Right.
When had she given you the latest schedule?
That one popped up that night.
Okay.
Two of them. There were two of them, and that was the whole problem. She had put two schedules out to purposely bait me so that the next time I came in, she would get me as a no-call, no-show and try to fire me. She had tried to fire me since the day she started as manager. The first day she came in, started to berate me in front of customers that if I was not on her side and I was not going to be on her team, she would be getting rid of me. So that campaign started from the very day one.
Can I see the schedule that was given to you? Well, I see you worked on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were your days that you had been working for the 3 years.
That was my permanent schedule before then.
Okay, and then we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That was 1 week. And then you had one Sunday, but again, that was from 10 to 4, and Friday from 5 to 12. Am I reading that correctly? Ms. Ross, this is 1 or 2 schedules.
Right.
But from what Mr. Baum tells me, the problem with the schedule had been an ongoing problem.
No.
Not just these 2 weeks.
No, ma'am.
Are you telling me you never changed the schedule from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9 p.m. to 10 a.m. other than these 2 times?
Correct. Easter weekend and then the weekend, maybe 2 weeks prior to that. Those are the only 2 times I changed Mr. Baum's schedule.
Did you discuss that with him?
No, I did not.
She never discussed anything with me.
Just a second. So you came around to discuss the schedule that had not been discussed with you before, this schedule.
Right.
What happened?
You open up these cupboards that are behind the register, and they're about this size. I came up and I opened up the schedule, and she started just talking gibberish while she was standing there, and I said, well, can you make any sense? Why are you putting these 2 schedules up here? Which one am I supposed to go? And as I turned to go to get the schedules, she said, I'm sick of your whatever, and she just hit me right across the face. She was trying to bait me into hitting her. This was her last resort to try to get rid of me.
When you say, Mr. Baum, that she hit you across the face, what you did was go like this. That's what you did.
Sure.
So is what you're telling me that she hit you with an open hand like that?
At first I didn't know. At first I thought she hit me with keys.
Well, this is what you did. What you did was you didn't say she hit me or she hit me. You said she hit you.
Right. I have pictures to show it.
Before you show me the pictures, that's what you told me she did. She went like this.
Right.
Is that what she did?
Well, with her fingernails, yes.
Well, you didn't show me with fingernails, sir. That's not what you showed me. You showed me with your hand, like that. Let me see the pictures. Go ahead.
Then she just started running. She went into the other room. There was another gentleman there who also takes care of things in the back room, and she brought him out, and I called the 911, and I called her supervisor at the time, and he told me just to go outside and wait for the police. So the other gentleman and I went outside, and this entire time while we were watching and waiting for the police, she was up at the register dancing and singing to herself, "Kevin's fired, Kevin's fired."
Okay, let me hear your version of the events, madam.
Okay, ma'am. 4:18, I came in. I was running late. I clocked in at 9:07. I have the time card for that. First priority of business, I have to do the banking. Immediately sat down in front of the safe, which is located in the floor, started retrieving the money from the safe. That's when Kevin, he wasn't in front at first. He comes up, like he said, he opens the door where the schedules are kept. He asked me, what schedule are we going by? I said, the one on the top, still retrieving the money, and I didn't even look up at him. Then he said, I know, but there's another one underneath. Which one are we going by? I said, the one on the top. That's exactly how I said it. And then after I said that, he was like, well, what the F does that matter? And da-da-da-da-da. So I stopped and I looked. I was still sitting on the floor. I looked back at him and I was like, who do you think you're talking to? And he was like, that doesn't ever matter. So I said, you know what? You're fired. Get out. As soon as I said that, he reached for the phone, dialed 911 and said, help, help, my manager just attacked me. And I'm still sitting on the floor where the safe is. I sat there for a couple seconds, listened to his conversation. Kind of was funny to me at first because he was really performing. Then I got up after he was on the phone with 911 for a couple seconds. I'm like, I better go get the guy that was in the back. I go to the back, I start screaming his name, which you can hear on the 911 tape, and I told him to come up and see if Kevin's been hit. So when he finally comes up, I come back and I start getting the money still out of the safe. I sit back down and get the money out of the safe. Him and Kevin is talking. He says to me, he has a scratch on his face. I said, go get the tape, because I wasn't finna argue with him at that point. So he retrieved the tape. By that time, the police came up. The police officer came in, talked to me. Then he asked me what the company wanted to do. I told him that they wanted...
Don't tell me anybody said to you. You have a tape of this?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
Gloria Ross claims former co-worker Kevin Baum falsely accused her of slapping him. Kevin is countersuing for the assault in question.
Have you seen this tape, Mr. Baum?
Yes.
Well, I see you coming in, looking at the schedule. I see her on the floor.
He picks the phone up right there. He's talking to 911 right now.
That's when she did it right there.
Right where?
He pissed the phone down.
Just a second. Would you play that for me again?
There's also a 3-second delay in between all of that.
I see her on the floor, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, Mr. Baum. She didn't get up from the floor when you picked up the phone.
Well, that isn't
Mr. Baum,
exactly...
She didn't get up from the floor at the time that you picked up the phone.
Well, I didn't even know if she was actually off the floor. You're talking about a space like right here.
Just a second. You have the call that he made to 911?
Yes, and
I'd like to hear it.
That I'm beating him while he's on the phone.
911. Oh, please come help me. I've been attacked. Okay, one hand boss just bashed me in the face. Were you robbed, sir? No, I was hit by my boss. Okay, you need any kind of medical attention? No, I don't think so. I don't know yet. Okay, and she's still there? Yes, she is. Tony! Okay, police have been notified. Oh, thank you. Bye.
Okay. As a result of the telephone call to the police, were you taken into custody?
No, I was not.
Okay. So the damages that you are alleging were that you were taken out of that store and sent to a different location.
Yes.
You have any confirmation of the fact that the reason you were moved from one location to another were as a result of this incident?
No, I don't. I just have the dates that I didn't get moved until this happened.
Ms. Ross, you see, this is your problem. I believe that you did not assault him. I believe that. Why do I believe that? Because you were sitting on the floor, and there's no question, based upon what I saw, you did not get up from the floor and were in any position to go like this, which resulted, according to the defendant, in a scratch that would have been like this to his face, something that it could have easily been accomplished by himself. I also don't believe that someone who was being attacked picks up the phone right near the attacker to call the police. They would exit the store as fast as they could, try to get away before they called for help. Because when you call 911, that means that you are in imminent danger. And he was not in imminent danger because he was standing right there with you. When it was clear, he could have just left the area. He chose not to do that. So I have serious reservations as to whether or not he was the victim of an attack. Your problem is the problem of damages, because I would have to have the supervisor, owner of your store to say that the reason you were demoted was based on this incident solely. And you can't testify to that because that would all be hearsay. Do you understand?
Right.
So your problem is one of proof.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
As to what your damages were.
Okay.
Okay, good. You have a counterclaim, Mr. Baum, and your counterclaim is for assault and lost wages because you were suspended, right?
Correct.
Good. That's dismissed, sir. I believe that this was a whole lot of who shot John and a whole lot of nothing. And I don't believe that this lady assaulted you. And She may not have been a good supervisor, and she may have been giving you the business from the time she became your supervisor. She may have changed your schedule. She may not have liked you. But I don't believe she assaulted you on the 18th of April. So your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Truth came out, and hopefully Kevin will know better not to try this with nobody else.
Oh, she's been trying to get rid of me forever because, I don't know.
He tried to goat me, but it didn't work.
She knew exactly what she was doing when she did it.
He's been there for 2 years. I've been there for 8 months. I became the manager. He's still a sales clerk. You do the math.
She's a bitter woman, and she wants to make everyone like that around her.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Greenwood versus Bolden and Zaplicki. Step forward, please.
26-year-old Jamie Greenwood is suing her former friends, 23-year-old Brad Bolden and his girlfriend Holly Zaplicki, for the cost of 2 airplane tickets to Mexico.
According to your complaint, this large extended group was planning a trip to Mexico.
Correct.
And either one or both of them asked you to book the tickets for them because you were booking a block of tickets.
Correct.
You did that. Somebody had an emergency in the family. Who was it? You.
Yes.
And they told you they weren't going. Tickets that you purchased on your credit card were non-refundable. You want them to assume the responsibility for those tickets. They do not deny that they asked you to book the tickets, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
And they do not deny that you booked the tickets, correct?
Correct.
So I now hear your defense.
The reason why I can't go on the trip is because my father's ill. He has bad diabetes, and had paperwork here for my job. I only had 4 vacation days left for my job, so during that time I was going to use those 4 days to go down on the trip. And I stated to her that I have FMLA for my father.
You have what?
FMLA is like family leave for my job, and when you use the time up for my father, they took my vacation days from me. So that's the main reason why I really can't go on the trip. And I didn't tell her to book it on her credit card. She didn't tell us nothing about it going on her credit card. She didn't tell
Well, what
me.
did you think she was going to do, pay cash?
No, we had a due date to give her the rest of the money. We gave her $500 down to reserve part of it, and she said she'd give us the rest of the money on June 10th, give her the rest of the $2,300 to give to her. So I was going to give her that money on the due date. She didn't say nothing about no credit card or nothing like that. I was paying cash for it. I didn't tell her to do it on a credit card. She took it a month herself to put on her credit card.
What's your name, Bolden?
Yes.
Get it together. Maybe 0.1% of the people in this country, when they book a vacation, go to the airlines and pay them cash.
Yeah.
I don't know a soul that does that, and I know a lot of people. Did you ever go down to the airlines in the past 10 years and pay them in cash?
No.
You use your credit card.
That's
Call
right.
up, or you go book online, you type in your credit card, you give the operator your credit card, and that's the way you book a ticket to go away.
She didn't tell me.
Listen! She doesn't have to tell you unless you're living on Pluto. I want you to look out at the gallery here in court today. Turn around. How many of you have been on an airline within the last 5 years? Raise your hands. Turn around, look. Put your hands down. How many of you have gone and paid cash to the airline for your ticket? Raise your hand. You got it?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. People don't do that. How much does he owe you?
In total, $972.58.
She had called my house and said it was $890-some. She never said nothing about no $900 and some.
Well, what do you think happens to the $876 when you don't pay it at all?
Well, she could have told us that first if she was putting something on the credit card, because we're not the only people that she did that to.
Yeah, because I have
She did it to you. What do you
She's
mean
not
she
the
did
only
it
person.
To you. Do you have children?
I have 3.
How old are you?
25.
Ay. Listen, I'm going to waste not one further moment on this case. Between the two of them, I don't think we can put together a 3-digit IQ. I'm not going to be able to explain that to them. Is that what's on the credit card for their portion of the trip?
Correct.
$972. That's what you owe her. Pay her.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Just to make extra money in her pocket, that's all.
It's about the principal and the money.
It doesn't matter, because we don't get along with her anyway.
I can move on.
Whatever.
Whatever.
20-year-old Lonita White is suing her late fiance's sister, Kimberly Swan, for her share of his ashes. Kimberly says Lonita is not entitled to her brother's remains.
All rise. Now, this is case number 88 on the calendar, the matter of White versus Swan. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss White, your boyfriend, according to your complaint, was killed. He was shot recently, and the defendant is his sister. It is your claim that she promised to give you some of his ashes.
Yes.
He was cremated and then changed her mind.
Yes.
Ms. Swan says that you are no relation to the family. You were not living with her brother. You were certainly not married to her brother, which would give you any legal status if you were his wife. His family has his ashes. They intend to keep them. That's what the case is about. Ms. Swan is counterclaiming for harassment of some sort. She'll tell me about that. When was your boyfriend killed?
February 15, 2006.
And how long was he your boyfriend?
For almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in July.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Who is this?
My mother.
Just curious. If you had the ashes, what would you do with them?
I was going to keep it. That would have been the last thing I had left of my boyfriend. Well, my fiance, which she doesn't know we were engaged.
I don't care whether you were engaged or not. Engaged is not a legal structure that entitles you to any property, any domain over any of his realty or his ashes or decision-making with regard to what happens to him. You're her mother?
Yes.
I assume you're here for moral support.
And more. Whatever I could support her with.
Okay. First of all, Miss Swan, how many siblings are there?
There is my oldest brother, and Marcus was my youngest brother.
You have parents?
Yes, my father is still alive, and my mother passed away 9 weeks before my brother did.
Okay, Miss White. So let me hear you.
Basically, the reason why I want the ashes in the locket is because that's what we had agreed to at the funeral.
When did you agree? And with whom did you agree?
Kimberly Swan and me.
And what did you agree?
That I was to receive a keepsake, which is a locket, and an urn with his cremains in them.
Is that right?
The contract that we have, we agreed upon the funeral arrangements. They offered to buy his suit and the flowers, which they did. Everything else was taken care of by.
What I'm asking you is, did you make an agreement with her, either orally or in writing? Put your hand down. Either orally or in writing, to give her a locket with ashes from your brother?
Yes.
Okay. And what? Relax. Okay. This whole thing is ridiculous.
It is.
The whole thing is ridiculous. She's 20 years old. She shouldn't be walking around with a locket of the ashes of her deceased boyfriend. You should be helping her get over this. She's supposed to move into the future. You're not supposed to help her live in the past. I am here to do a lawsuit. And the lawsuit is, was there an agreement between these two people for her to get a locket containing some of the ashes of her brother, and as part of perhaps a quid pro quo of that, did you pay for certain things for the funeral? You did pay for certain things for the funeral?
Yes.
So we did have an agreement. Now what I want you to tell me is why you reneged on the agreement.
When we first made the agreement, I was under a whole total different impression of why they wanted to help in the first place. I allowed for them to help, and this thing about her being the girlfriend, she was the ex-girlfriend. According to 2 days before he died, they had just broken up. But just because they broken up, that didn't mean I was shutting them out. She said they wanted to buy the suit and the flowers and things. I said, well, okay, I'll give you the locket. We have other family, that want the ashes too. In this agreement...
Where's the locket?
Where's the locket?
Yeah.
The locket is at home.
Well, get it.
I'll get it.
That's what you made an agreement for. You made an agreement to give that to her. So far, I haven't heard a reason why you reneged on that agreement.
The reason why is because when he first got shot, Miss White had me under the impression that she wasn't there. But after the funeral, a lot of things have came to light. That she told me many lies about what happened to my brother. She said at first that she was not there, and now after everything is said and done with the funeral arrangements, her and her parents was in my brother's home when he got murdered. All lie after lie after lie.
All right. Miss Swan.
Yes.
You made an agreement with Miss White.
To give her the locket.
To give her the locket.
Not ashes, the locket.
Fine. But the locket contains ashes.
Yeah.
That's sufficient. These your brother's remains?
Yes.
All right. They're yours. They're yours.
Mm-hmm.
Put it away. Get over it. Your mother may be a co-conspirator with this lunacy, but, I have limited patience with this. You're 20 years old. You have a whole lifetime to live. You're not supposed to walk around with ashes of your old boyfriend around your neck, whether he's deceased or whether you broke up with him. It's over. It's finished. You got to move on. But we're here to talk about contract. You had an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to fulfill that agreement. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Fine. And does that urn contain his ashes?
Yeah.
Bert, I want you to take that, please, and give it to me. Now, do you want me to keep these ashes in safekeeping until she gets the locket, or are you prepared to guarantee me that she will get it?
I'm prepared to guarantee her, but without all the harassment.
You are prepared to guarantee
locket. That's mine.
That within 5 days she is going to get the locket.
Yes.
If she does not, we will send a marshal to pick this up. Do you understand that? There's no question about that. That's what I will do. I will send a marshal to your home to pick this up unless she gets the locket. Clear?
Yes.
Now you can return this to her, Bert, please. Thank you.
I
What?
have a letter from the funeral director.
I don't
stating
read
the
letters from a
agreement.
funeral director.
This is the agreement.
I don't read letters from the funeral director. Pay careful attention to me. Nobody is opening up that urn and splitting up the ashes. It's not going to happen, Miss White.
But can I explain what happened?
I don't care what happened. You are getting a locket with ashes of your boyfriend.
I understand, but it's a total of 3 urns with his ashes in there.
I don't care. This lady, listen to me, look at me. This lady cannot do that because she is not really in charge of what happens to her brother. Because the next person in the family who is really responsible for making those judgments is your boyfriend's father, not her. She may have made the arrangements, but she's not the person who is authorized by law unless he had a will. Did he have a will? Of course not.
Not that I know, no.
Of course not. But you have an arrangement with her to get the locket, which she has. She's going to give that to you because she promises me she's going to give that to you. Correct?
Correct.
Otherwise, we're coming to get that.
No, she's getting the
You don't
locket.
want to give that.
No, never. Never.
Fine. You want to say something?
Yes, ma'am, I do. First of all, I'd like to say that Kimberly has not been harassed.
I'm not asking you about that. I haven't
Okay.
gotten to the counterclaim yet.
Okay. About the funeral arrangements. My daughter was promised an urn and a locket. This is the letter from the funeral director stating the
With the
urn
agreement.
and the locket from Kimberly's own statement. That's all I'm saying. She's due more than just a locket.
Sit down.
No problem.
You didn't have on your listening ears. You
Yes,
should
ma'am,
have.
I did.
You should know. You didn't hear what I said. Now I'm prepared to hear your counterclaim. Go.
My counterclaim is for harassment, which they have. They have been harassing me ever since after the funeral. Once everything was done and over with, then I get the harassment before the urn shipment even came. This woman had the audacity to call me, yelling at me, telling me that I did not love my mother or my brother. I had just lost both of them. How dare she call my house like that, harassing, and then she sent somebody to my job. They came to my house one time by themselves trying to retrieve the urn, not the locket, but the urn. They want the urn. And there's a lot of trash talking. Her mother threatened me. Her mother threatened me.
Let me say this.
Uh-huh.
And I want you to also listen.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes when you lose somebody that you love,
Yeah.
you're not listening, you're angry. And she's not listening either because her foot hasn't stopped moving for a second. Sometimes when you lose somebody that you really care about and there's an overwhelming sadness, a much easier emotion to deal with than sadness is anger. And you always have to have someone who's going to be the target of that anger. It's much easier to deal with than the emotion that you really should be dealing with, everybody feeling sad. Because the truth of the matter is, that means nothing. You lost your, listen to me, you lost your mother. Was she cremated or buried?
She was cremated also.
Okay. You have her ashes?
Yes, I do.
And you keep them at home?
Yes, I do, right next to this one.
Having lost parents, I know. Listen to me. Comes a time when you go very often to the cemetery to visit because it makes you feel good. I used to go every week.
Yeah.
Then in time, as time settles in, you go less frequently, which is a normal and, quite frankly, very healthy thing to do. Yeah. I think maybe for you, let me finish. You're not listening.
Okay,
You want to
I'm
talk
listening.
so badly.
I'm listening.
You want
I'm
to talk so
listening.
badly. For you, it may be important for you to have the ashes of your mother and your brother in your house. I think it's dumb for her to have them because, you see, you will never replace your mother.
That's right.
And you're never going to replace your brother.
That's right.
She's going to replace this boyfriend.
Lonita White claims her late fiance's sister, Kimberly Swan, refuses to hand over her share of his remains. Kimberly is countersuing, claiming Lonita has been harassing her.
Now, the ashes that she so desperately wants today are going to be an annoyance 5 years from now because she really doesn't know what she's going to do with them. Does she give them to her mother to hold? Mother say, I don't want them. My husband certainly doesn't want to see him in my house. Right. My kids are going to look and say, Mommy, what is that? So there's a reason for you to keep those if that's what you do.
Yeah.
But there's an anger that is an emotion that you can actually grab onto. Yeah. You got to get over the anger. I'm not angry. Good. You got to get over the anger. So does your mother. If something happened to you, I guarantee you, your mother would not give your ashes to a boyfriend.
That's right.
No way. That's right. Put your hand down, scratch all you want. But that wouldn't happen. That's really what they're saying. I don't want to share the brother's remains with you, other than the locket which she is prepared to give you, correct?
That's right.
Perfect. That's what you're going to get within 5 days. Your harassment, forget it. Get over the anger. Good. Fine. That's all.
You didn't even speak up.
How is that?
won't let me speak.
Step out.
Should have spoke up.
Man, wait here.
She just being greedy and treacherous. She was trying to profit off the blood of my brother. I'm not going to let that happen.
That was my fiance, and I wanted my remains that was agreed to me.
Lie after lie after lie after lie.
Yeah, I could find another boyfriend, but I can't find one that was like him.
I'm very displeased. I'm very upset.
That woman faked an anxiety attack at his funeral. Her mother was in the front row fake crying, and I'm sitting up there. I looked at her on that floor shaking when she got the Holy Ghost. I'm looking at her mother right here. As soon as they seen me standing there, mother stopped fake crying. I look at my brother and say, how did it come to this?
Corey and Tammy Shanks are suing Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, for damaging his truck when she ran into a mailbox.
All rise. This is case number 44 on the calendar in the matter of Shanks versus Blankenship. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacant.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
you were together?
Yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was if she did move in, she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it, you know? I mean,
Getting ready to leave what?
in the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes. The semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said, it needs to be replaced. You need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures in the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So why are you here? He ruined her life.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
And later today.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours.
I wasn't there when he slapped my daughter's mouth. As far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife, and your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Oh, you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's his fault. Probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind? Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He got back with his wife. Tammy was mad because he got with me. We share a life together. She didn't like the fact that I had permission to have the truck, something that she could never ever have.
25-year-old Nicole Newton is suing her former friend, Michael Danner, for rolling her Jeep. Nicole says the accident was a result of a heated argument.
Yeah, that's case number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Newton versus Danner. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Newton, Mr. Danner was a friend of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
There were 4 people traveling in a car. It was your car?
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, Mr. Danner took control of the car, you say without your permission, and he wrecked it.
Yes.
Mr. Danner acknowledges that he took your car. Mr. Danner acknowledges that he took your car without your permission. And Mr. Danner acknowledges that he wrecked the car. So far, correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
His defense is that he took the car because he feared for his safety, and it was the only way to get away from a situation that was dangerous. When did this happen, Miss Newton?
November 17th of 2005. It was about 5 o'clock in the evening.
Who was in the car?
My husband, Craig, was driving.
Is that him?
Yes. And myself was in the passenger front seat, and then Mike Danner and Peggy Thornton were in the back seat of the vehicle.
What happened?
Me, Mike, and Peggy had just got off from work in Plattsburgh, and I gave him rides to work. We all worked together in a factory, and we were cut back to St. Joe and picked up my husband to take him to get his paycheck in Atchison, Kansas. And sometime in between the factory where he works at and going back over the Kansas Bridge into Missouri, where we live at, there was a heated argument about several different things, one of them being an affair that happened between Mike's ex-girlfriend and my husband. And
Mike's
ex-girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend and your husband.
Yes. And Mike got really excited, kind of upset, agitated, and jumped out of the vehicle on the Mocan Bridge, which is in between Kansas and Missouri. And me and Peggy got him back into the car,
in the back seat, and he proceeded to start beating on Peggy in the back seat. We tried to get into the back of the vehicle to get him off of Peggy, but both rear doors were locked, and my husband, Craig, he decided to go over the seats at Mike, and there was a struggle or some sort, and then Mike was in the front seat, and the next thing I know, I woke up next to the side of the road because I'd been hit with the car door on the back of my head. When he pulled it into gear, it locked in reverse, so he had to push the button to pull it down into drive to take off with it, and then he proceeded. My husband told me he dragged him a good half a block up the road when he was taking the vehicle. And then he went for help when I was knocked out, and the police come, and 2 farmers came and told me my Jeep was up a half mile up the road, flipped over, and no sign of Mike or Peggy, and they were both in the vehicle when it took off.
When he took off, where was Peggy? Still in the back seat?
Yeah, she was still in the rear.
Stand up. Were you in the car when the car flipped over?
Yes, ma'am.
You were in the back seat of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dana was driving the car, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to Mr. Dana driving the car, was he sitting in the back passenger seat next to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he go over the front seat?
Yes, ma'am.
When he took off, did you say anything to him?
Yes, ma'am. I said to please stop or slow down.
You yelled?
I yelled.
Did he answer you?
No.
While he was sitting in the back seat of the car next to you, did he hit you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
At least 3.
I never hit him.
Yeah, you may be seated. I'm very effective.
I know.
So no matter how much rehearsing you did, it doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand? Now, Mr. Dana, you're going to explain to me your answer, which quite frankly I found slightly convoluted, why you are not responsible to the damage to Miss Newton's car. So far, let me tell you what we know to be the fact. You were driving this car. You took it without permission. You took it after you were assaulting your girlfriend. You did not get out of the car. You jumped over the front seat. You were driving too fast because that's what she says.
I never assaulted her, though.
Your Honor,
Is she still your girlfriend?
Yeah.
You think that this lady would say that you hit her when you didn't hit her?
She was drunk. That's one thing we left out. We was all drunk.
She may be drunk. Then she would say to me, I don't remember him hitting me. Mr. Dana, she would say, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But your girlfriend, with whom you probably slept last night, is not going to tell me, a perfect stranger, that you hit her at least 3 times when you didn't. Do you understand?
Maybe I was drunk and I don't remember.
Oh, that's perfect. That I like. Were you drunk?
Oh, yeah. We was drunk.
You were drunk?
Yeah.
So you had no business driving the car?
Nope, we shouldn't. None of us should have never been driving. It never would have happened.
Unfortunately, Mr. Dana, nobody was driving the car except you when it flipped over.
No, we was drunk when we got off work.
Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Dana. You had the misfortune of being behind the wheel, driving too fast when the car flipped over. Now, on November 17th, if I were a drinking person, I might have been drunk. If Bird were a drinking person, he might have been drunk. But that wouldn't have made any difference because we weren't driving the car.
Exactly. So
You would listen to
I
me.
wouldn't be driving with you,
You
if you was
weren't
drunk.
driving.
Would you get in that car with me and drive if I was drunk right now?
What did he say?
Would you get in the car and drive with me if I was drunk right now? Knowing I was drunk. Would you get in the car and drive
Listen
with me?
to me, sir.
I'm listening to you.
No, you're not. I think maybe it'll be helpful if you take your hands out of your pockets.
Yes, ma'am.
And uncross them. Hands at your sides. You chose to get into the car with the plaintiff and her husband. If they were all drinking and you got into the car with them, that's your choice. If the car had flipped over with her driving the car and she was drunk and you were hurt, she would have been responsible for your injuries. Do you understand?
So they should be responsible for my girlfriend's injuries. When I was driving, their insurance should be.
What law school did you graduate from, Mr. Dana?
Missouri Department of Corrections.
As an inmate?
Yeah.
There you go. People who graduate from prison law school, sir, very rarely get to the Supreme Court. In the history of this nation, nobody has ever made it to the Supreme Court who's a graduate of prison law school. So why don't you stop being a wise guy and just
Yes,
listen?
ma'am.
Because I guarantee you, in this little discourse that we're having, you're not going to win.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You can't pick your relatives. You can, however, pick your friends.
Yes, ma'am.
I suggest you slough off this group.
And later today,
Were you going on trial for a felony?
Yes.
He was convicted of his
I was
charges.
not convicted.
You were found guilty.
There was no witnesses in that. There was nothing, so it's just sick.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole Newton says former friend Michael Danner owes for rolling her Jeep on the highway. Michael says the accident happened when he was attacked by Nicole's husband.
Now, I want you in 30 seconds or less tell me why you're not responsible for the damage to Miss Newton's car.
For one, I was in fear of my life because her husband was beating me up once, and he told me he was going to beat me up again. And she jumped out of a Jeep with a billy club, so I took off, and basically that's it. And we should have never been drinking and driving. Nobody should be drinking and driving a vehicle.
That's your defense?
Yep, that's my defense.
Can I see the estimate on the damage, please? What an idiot.
Your Honor, there's one here that has the list of labor and parts from the dealer, and then the other one's just a printout of just the parts, which is what we were asking for.
How long has he been your boyfriend?
Almost a year.
You have children?
No.
Perfect. You have photographs of the car?
Yeah.
I'd like to see them, please.
I have also this one. If you want to give her that one, it's off. Okay.
They going to be able to fix this car?
Yeah, we've already started on it, Your Honor, out of our own pocket expense, just because that's my only means of transportation.
Is the limit in your small claims court $3,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you're only suing for $3,000?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You can't, Miss Newton, pick your relatives. You can, however, pick your friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes life gives us an advantage, and we're able to, despite the fact that we're stuck with relatives, we can get rid of them if they are not a positive part of our lives, right?
Yeah.
But it's certainly much easier to do with friends.
Yeah.
Right? I suggest you slough off this group. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Don't think they should have won. They're a bunch of losers and meth heads anyway.
No, I don't use crystal meth. I'd pee for somebody today.
He was beating on her. I went around to try to stop him, pull him off of her.
He says that his girlfriend was flashing somebody, but I didn't see it.
She was flashing Mr. Newton, and she was drunk.
Well, 3 balls of Jack Daniels, what would you be doing?
He jumped in the front, tore off, drugged me 50, 60 foot down the gravel road because I was trying to stop him, and rolled us both in the ditch.
We learned a lot, actually. I mean, he was a real long-term friend, him and his son, and no longer.
20-year-old Hannah Buellman is suing her former boyfriend, Ryan Trunell, for the cost of a car, an assault, and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Hi. Case number 204, Bernero versus Trunell.
Thank you, Kevin. Now, you have to tell me, are you Miss or Mr.?
For the duration of this case, I will refer to as Mr. for legal terms.
Mr. Trunell.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Buellman, you and the defendant dated for how long?
2 years.
And according to what I read, during part of that period of time, you lived at your mom's house.
Yes.
From when to when?
From January to May.
Of what year?
2021.
Had you lived with each other prior to that?
Yes.
Where?
At his mom's.
And how long had you lived at his mom's?
About a year, once I turned 18.
Prior to your moving into his mom's, were you ever together?
Yes.
Where?
Well, we didn't live together. We were just, we were seeing each other, I mean.
From when to when?
From April to December of 2019. And then I moved in at the beginning of 2020.
So for a long time. Did you have plans to marry and
yes.
Had you discussed it?
Yes.
True?
You had those conversations, yeah.
Great. This case actually has to do with funds that you put in to a car that was supposed to be used by both of you, but since you didn't have a license, the car was put in your name. And the relationship took a bad turn, and you have the car. Is that right?
Yes.
And you, Ms. Buellman, want the money that you put into the car.
Yes, we agreed that I would get my half of the money if he kept the car.
Well, you didn't put in half the money. You only put in, according to you, a deposit.
Yes.
So you're not entitled to half the car. At most, you're entitled to your deposit back, and that's what I have to determine. Now, Mr. Trunell, The allegation is that you filed a false restraining order against the defendant, and I believe you spent a little time in custody. Is that correct?
Yes, they took me in and fingerprinted me.
And that was after the breakup?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to the car. You were living with your mother when the car was purchased?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Trunell, month and year the car was purchased?
May of 2021.
So that was immediately prior to the breakup?
Yes.
What kind of car was purchased?
2014 Ford Focus SE.
And the purchase price?
We put down a deposit of $7,000. Total purchase of the car was just under $11,000.
So there was finance charge
Yes.
on the car. Who financed the car?
I did.
Through what institution?
My bank account. I was paying it through my debit card while I was working.
I understand that, but what institution? What
Bank of
America. Bank of America. And what were the monthly payments?
$200, around there.
So if the car was purchased immediately prior to the breakup, the plaintiff really didn't get any benefit or use of the car. Very little, maybe at most 30 days. That be a fair statement?
I'd say so.
Fair statement?
Yes.
And how much, Ms. Buhlman, did you put into the car?
I put in $6,000.
Is that correct?
Correct.
I'd like to see proof that you put in $6,000.
And then I also have bank statements.
Sarah, would you do me a favor, just add up these figures for me, please? I'd like to see the bank statement.
There's one page that is not highlighted.
Totals to $7,000, Your Honor.
What is this that you gave me?
My bank statements for what I paid at CarMax, and then what I take out, I did because I did a cash deposit. So everything I took out at the ATM, I put right into my cash flow envelope I had for savings for the car. But there are 2 CarMax transactions. I did it in cash because I was told that it would be cheaper if I did it in cash because it won't be taxed if it was compared to a card.
Yeah, but these figures don't add up to the same thing as that.
Well, he did pay a little because that is $7,000.
No. But these figures I have on the 13th of May, which is when this car was purchased. I have you took out $800. You took out $1,520. You took out another $100.
Yes.
I may be missing something, but that's all I see.
No, and then, like I said, the ATM on the other 2 bank statements, it says $700 and $800, and I believe another $500 for everything I took out in cash for down deposit.
I'm not following that. Are you understanding this? Take a look at this.
Sure.
You know.
So she's saying that these PNC bank statements was cash withdrawals that she then used towards, I'm assuming, this large $5,380 first bill, because the totals from this are only total to $2,420.
Right. Well, that's all I have. That's your bank statement. This thing that you handed me first is actually unreliable because my 14-year-old child could make that up on a computer. I'm looking at your bank statement, which looks different from my bank statements, but I'm prepared to accept it. Do you have the invoice for the car that you purchased?
I have the contract, the bill of sale.
Contract. Yeah, I'd like to see it. And I'd like to see your bank statement, please.
I don't have bank statements with me.
Any reason?
In my search, there were no correlations on May 13th towards the purchase. Only records that came up were towards the insurance and car payments that followed after the date. So I did not believe it was reasonable for me to submit that as evidence.
In the future, you should let the fact finder determine whether it's reasonable or not, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, when you finance the car, what this requires you to do is to maintain insurance.
Yes.
And it requires you to maintain insurance for both liability and collision until the remainder of the loan is paid off.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Good. Now, without going into anything else, the two of you are no longer together. We may have to get into that later on the protective order, but the car was totaled.
Yes.
After the breakup.
Yes.
And the car was totaled and insured so that there was payment by the insurance company.
Yes.
How much?
$6,000.
Do you have any proof of that?
No.
Now, when you received the $6,000, the balance of your loan was $7,000. When was the car totaled?
September 29th of 2021.
So you had the car for a few months and made a few payments.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this looks to me as if she put down most of the down payment.
Yes.
And that at most you paid registration, tags, and a couple of car payments, which didn't total $6,000.
Correct.
Well, why didn't you give her the rest of the money? Are you following me? I mean, that doesn't seem like rocket science. It wasn't your money. The two of you broke up, and it's clear to me that you had a minimal investment in this, dollar-wise.
The reason I didn't was mainly because I was the only person that could hold on to the car and keep it legally. Because it was under my insurance, I was able to finance it from there.
Okay, well, what you should have said to me was, I got a check for $6,000, but the $6,000, didn't that have to go to Bank of America?
Yes, it did. It went to Bank of America, went to my account. I used it towards paying off medical bills from the accident, and I used it towards rent for my home.
Well, why didn't you use it towards paying off the car loan?
The insurance company had paid off the rest of what I was owed to pay on the car to CarMax. They paid it off.
Oh, so they paid it off, plus they gave you $6,000.
No, let me correct. I apologize. I'm very nervous. The insurance company, after the incident, had paid off the rest of what was owed to CarMax from me.
Okay, so the insurance company paid off to the lender.
Yes.
Which was left, which was, let's say, $6,000.
Yes.
And in addition to that, they sent you a check.
Yes, I used that check towards my bills, and I used it towards my rent.
Okay, well, that you can't do, because that really wasn't your money. You didn't spend that money. Didn't you feel as if it was appropriate to give it back to her?
I would have if I wasn't in the situation that I was. And
what situation were you?
I was injured.
Who is this? Is this your mother?
Yes.
Okay. Are you living with your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so you weren't on the street. I assume that you feed your child when you have to.
He was actually taking care of me at that time.
Oh, great. Well, if you had the money to take care of your mother, then you should have returned the money to her. So she's entitled to that money. You were compensated for it by the insurance company, and you had no right to keep it for your own bills. Okay. Got it?
Yes.
Easy. Easy peasy. Now, next is your allegation that he assaulted you and filed a false restraining order.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's jump to you are no longer living together. This is after May of 2021. You had an encounter, according to your papers, with the defendant. Tell me when and where that happened.
So October 6th at a Gloucester City park, right down the street from where I was staying. So I walked there. And we both agreed for me to pick up my things because he still had some of my belongings.
Did you make the appointment to meet by text, by email?
Yes.
Text?
Yes.
Anybody have those texts?
Let me see if I do.
I do not. My phone was destroyed.
I only have the text from when he texted me the car accident when I said I was planning to take my car back. And right after that, I then planned to meet up with him to get the rest of my stuff back.
Okay. Well, you don't have the text involving that. Okay. So you did, in fact, meet at a park.
Yes.
How did you get there?
I walked there. I was staying at a friend's house.
How did you get there?
I drove my mother's car.
Okay. Now you're in the park. Tell me what happened. And this is in October.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we meet at the park, and he gives me my belongings. And then I asked him, because throughout the breakup and afterwards, I knew there was some things he was hiding from me. So I asked him if he was hiding anything, and to get some closure, I just wanted the truth. And so from then, he was getting a little frustrated about it. And I was just saying, I don't know what I did wrong. And then he threatened to hit me. And then I said...
You said to him, I don't know what I did wrong.
Yes.
Because he moved out.
Well, from the reason he told me we broke up, he said it was mental illness. And then I felt like I wasn't helping if I could do any more. I felt like I could have done more because I was very accepting of who he is now. And so since that happened and I was so accepting of him, then he threatened to hit me. And I was very confused. And I just said, okay. And then he shoved it and swung at me.
And at no time did you hit him?
After that, I did defend myself and I did hit him.
What did you hit him with?
Just my hands. I pushed him just to get him off of me.
Was he injured?
By scratches, yes.
Where?
On the face. There was like 2 scratches I saw.
And what about you?
I had bruises on my shoulders, both shoulders, and then I had a swelling on my head.
Either of you have photographs of the injuries?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
20-year-old Hannah Buellman says ex-boyfriend Ryan Trunell is responsible for a car down payment and injuries from an assault. Ryan said he was the one assaulted.
Either of you have photographs of the injuries?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Thank you.
Okay. How did it end, the incident in the park?
So I just pushed him on the ground and I walked away.
And where did you go?
I first went back to his house. I did go to his house because he still had one of my big bags.
Okay, so after this incident, you pushed him down. You went back to his house with him?
No, I with my friend.
Well, your friend wasn't with you in the park.
Yes, I walked to my friend's house. I let him know what happened, and then we drove to his house so I can get the rest of my belongings that I couldn't carry home.
And what happened when you got to his house?
So I told him, I said, hey, I'm sorry. I even put my hands up and I'm like, I just want the rest of my belongings back because I didn't think I would get it back. And so then he just told me, sorry, I told you I was mentally unstable. And I'm like, I just want my stuff back. And I grabbed it and I left.
So you got your things back?
Yeah.
And you both said, I'm sorry. Does that sound correct?
No.
Well, tell me your version of, you had this argument in the park.
We had an argument in the park. She was asking me questions about why the relationship had ended. I had explained that it was through emotional turmoil, mental illness, and that she was not being very supportive. She was very toxic, and she was very aggressive with me. And when I had told her that I was going through all of this stuff and that I felt bad for things that happened in the relationship, I told her that you need to understand that you did me wrong too. She said, so what? I pushed her. She swung first. I swung back. We fought. We broke up the fight in the beginning. I apologized. Her items were on the ground. I picked them up. I handed them to her. She punched me in the face twice. Post that, grabbed my hair, pulled it, and then we broke up the fight after. I got in my car. I went home first. She went back across the street to her friend's place. I was at the apartment. I was just talking to my landlords about some stuff that my mother and I had to take care of. I don't exactly remember. As I was coming back up from the apartment, her and her friend had walked up, threatened to charge me with assault, and demanded the $7,000 for the car then and there. I said I didn't have it. I apologized for what had happened.
Didn't have it? You apologized for spending the money?
Yeah.
That's what part of the argument was about, back at your apartment.
Well, there wasn't an argument on that. I apologized for it, but she still wanted the money. She demanded the money.
Well, so the money was part of the argument.
Yes.
Did you both go to the police station?
Yes.
Yes.
And who went first?
I did.
But you didn't go to the police station immediately after the incident. You went to the police station after she said she's going to charge you with assault.
Yes.
And do you have a copy with you of the police report that you filed?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
You have a copy of the police report you filed?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. So you were not injured, and what I'm putting together here is that you went to the police station and filed this because she had threatened to go to the police and charge you with assault. You went there, got there first, and you got there second. Is that right? And by the time you got there, is that the time they took you into custody?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever, Mr. Trunnell, seek medical attention for any of these injuries that I see in these photographs?
No.
The answer is either yes or no.
No.
And you do acknowledge, Mr. Trunnell, that the initial aggressor, physical aggressor, which is what you testified to. Let's go back to his initial testimony, Whitney. I believe he testified that, not sure, she was aggressive, she was loud, she wouldn't accept it, and he pushed her. But I'd like to get the exact wording.
So I told her that you need to understand that you did me wrong too. She said, so what? I pushed her. She swung first. I swung back. We fought.
Okay, so after you pushed her, after you put your hands on her, according to you, she swung at you.
Correct.
Okay, well, you didn't expect her to give you a kiss after you pushed her.
No.
All right, Ms. Buhlman, I'm looking at your complaint, and your complaint is seeking $6,000 in damages. Well, you already have, according to you, that money invested in the car, which he got back. So you are entitled to that. And since that's the extent of your claim against the defendant, I'm granting your petition in the amount of $6,000. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished here. Thank you.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
There were a lot of factors going on, I believe, just between both of us.
I'm just more than grateful to finally get this over with. I've been waiting too long and
Just a lot, I think, that I had to work on, too.
fighting for it and put so much work and time into it.
A lot of the things that were going on in my head was me being depressed, having to deal with a lot of what was going on in the world at the same time, too.
Well, he was like trying on makeup and stuff when we were together, and I was showing him how to do makeup, and I was being very supportive and just telling him, you should get help, go get a therapist.
I felt like she was pushing me away.
And I don't know why he thought the other way around, because
We just both go our separate ways, and we both just try and be happy. And
I didn't know what to do, and what I was doing I thought was supportive.
That must have been a very difficult breakup for both of them after being together for a significant number of years. But that's tip number 1 of Judy Justice is never put your hands on someone. And tip number 2, never purchase property, dogs, cars, timeshares with someone who's not your legal partner or without a contract. I mean, we've seen this time and time again.
Those people who don't follow that advice have kept me in business for 27 years.
We'll keep telling them that.
You're right.
Case number 2010, Hickman versus Vensloff. All parties, please step forward.
Vanessa Hickman is suing her trainer, Dylan Vensloff, for an unpaid loan.
Ms. Hickman, your case is relatively simple. You claim that you made a loan to the defendant, who was your personal trainer, when he said he was in a financial bind and he needed rent money, and he made the loan. And he paid some. His wife paid some.
Correct.
He made a couple of payments, but there is still a substantial balance.
Correct.
Mr. Vensloff said that this was not a loan, but prepayment for his training services, and that you sort of backed out of the training/nutrition program. So that's your problem. You lose your money. That's your defense, right?
Yes.
Just curious, before I get started with this case, how much do you get per hour for personal training? No, don't look over there. I want you to know that I know all about this. Everybody that I know except me has a personal trainer. I work out every day. I don't take instruction well, so I don't have a personal trainer. I have a husband who had a personal trainer. All my friends have personal trainers. So now I want you to answer my question, unless there's something extraordinary about you, which there is not. How much do you get per hour for personal training?
$75.
That's a reasonable figure. Just informational purposes. How much money did you take from Miss Hickman?
How much money did I take?
Yes, how much money did you take from me? I haven't decided what it's for, but money exchanged between you, she has proof of how much it was, and you. How much money?
I believe it was $2,300.
Is that right?
Correct.
And on what date did she give you $2,300?
I believe sometime at the end of last year, or it was close to the beginning of this year, somewhere along that time.
Date?
November 22nd, 2021.
And at that time, how long had you been training her? Since when? When did you start with her as a client?
I think like the beginning of summer last year, so I'd say...
Date?
July 2021.
Beginning, middle, or end?
Beginning.
July, August, September, October. So you had been training her for 4 months.
Yes, ma'am.
Up until November 22nd, how much money had she given you for training? Did she pay you by the week? Did she pay you by the month? How did she pay you?
Up front, first,
okay.
Monthly.
In July?
Yep.
Not yup. That's not yup.
Yes,
yup
ma'am.
You say to your friends or to your wife. So in July,
yes.
when you started,
yes.
she gave you how much?
$500.
For the month of July?
Yes, ma'am.
The month of August, how much did she give you?
$500.
Is that correct?
Correct.
September?
Same amount, ma'am.
$500. October?
Same amount.
November?
Same amount.
The beginning of November?
Yeah.
Yeah is not an answer. The beginning of November, did she give you $500?
No, because that's when we had the agreement.
No. Don't give me agreement nonsense. The beginning of July, she gave you $500.
Yep.
Beginning of August,
yep.
She gave you $500. Beginning of September,
yes.
She gave you $500. The beginning of October, she gave you $500. How much did she give you in the beginning of November? This $2,300 was not paid until November 22nd. How much did she give you the beginning of November?
Then it must have been $500.
Is that correct? So now she has given you $2,500
yes, ma'am.
For 5 months. She's given you $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Now I want you to tell me what happened in November after you gave him the $2,500.
So we agreed to $100 monthly payments.
This is in November?
November, after we signed the agreement.
What agreement?
The agreement was that...
No, I want to see the agreement. Don't
Absolutely.
Tell me what it was. I'd like to see it. Who wrote this?
I did.
Well, I don't actually understand it. It says, I, Mr. Vensloff, hereby accept $2,300 from my client, Vanessa Hickman, in trade and paid in advance for training. This will cover meal plans, planned workouts, in-person training, check-ins, and virtual check-ins from November 22nd, 2021 to May 15th, or 1 month of training and payment plans of no less than $100 a month, starting 12/22/21. I agree to pay back the full amount in 12 months. I actually don't understand what that means, because you agreed to pay back the full amount in 12 months by paying her no less than $100 a month, starting December 2021. First part says you're accepting this $2,300 from your client in trade and paid in advance for training, but that you will pay her $100 a month and be finished paying her in 12 months by 11/22/2022. Okay. So you wrote this up.
Yes.
I don't understand it because it doesn't make sense.
Of course.
So there had to be a reason why you picked this $2,300. He's been training you July, August, September, October, and November. You paid him $500 each month, or about $120 a week. And all of a sudden there's a $2,300. What, is there something that I said funny? All of a sudden, there's $2,300. Tell me how the $2,300 came about.
So over the course of those months, we became good friends. I see him 3 times a week. We get to know each other, talk, open up, and we're very friendly with each other. He opened up about me about having financial hardships.
No, he'd opened up. He said to you.
Yeah, he said to me, I need to borrow $2,300.
And you said to him?
Why can't you ask anybody else?
And he said to you?
His girlfriend's father, if he were to ask him, he would pry and find out that he was addicted to cocaine.
That's what he told you?
Correct.
And what did you say to him?
Oh, okay. So if I give you this money, we're going to write an agreement to cover me in case you don't pay me back.
And what did he say?
Okay. And that day on November 22nd, we wrote out the agreement.
No, you wrote the agreement.
Absolutely. I wrote it down, and he gave me a photo of his driver's license that day. And
you have a copy of that driver's license?
I do have a photo on my phone, yes.
I'd like to see it.
Of course.
Nessa Hickman claims her trainer, Dylan Venzloff, owes for an unpaid loan. Dylan says it was a trade agreement and not a loan.
Okay. Mr. Venzloff, understanding what I said to you before, that everybody that I know has a trainer. Everybody, except me. Nobody that I know has the driver's license of their trainer. Nobody. And I'm very old. Now, can you give me a logical reason why the plaintiff would have a copy of your driver's license in her phone?
To make sure that the trade agreement stays.
What's the trade agreement?
The trade agreement was that she was going to give me the money, and I was going to...
Just a second. Let's go back for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
So what she says, in part, was accurate. Is that what you're telling me?
In part.
That you became friends, you would talk to her, you had a girlfriend, you knew he had a girlfriend?
Correct.
You asked her for money?
Yes, ma'am.
Different amount of money because you were in financial difficulty?
Yes, ma'am.
And that she asked you, why couldn't you ask your girlfriend's father? Because she evidently knew that based upon the fact that you were friends, that you're the wife, girlfriend, whatever, your father has money?
Yes.
Okay. Why couldn't you ask the girlfriend's father, right?
Yes.
She asked you that question?
Yes.
And did you say to her, because I didn't want him to pry?
Yes.
Because I have a cocaine habit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so she gave you the $2,300?
Yep.
Not yup.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Perfect. And that was on the 22nd of November of last year. After she gave you that money, and you were supposed to, according to this agreement, make $100 a month payments to her. That would took. That's what it says.
Yeah, if I was unavailable.
No, it doesn't say. There's nothing here that says unavailable.
Well, it's actually.
There's nothing. That's why I don't understand this agreement.
Yeah.
You see, not yet. That's why I don't understand this agreement, because one talks about training and workouts, and one talks about you agreeing to pay her back within 12 months at no less than $100 a month. So it doesn't make any sense. So now I have to figure out what it was that really happened. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this paper says something about $100 a month. Now, did you ever give her $100 a month?
Yes, for a month.
In what months did you give her $100 a month?
I think it was the first 3 months.
And you gave it to her how?
Via Venmo.
Did he give you the first 3 months?
He gave me the last 2 months, and his wife paid me the first month.
That would be you?
Yes.
Stand up, please. Tell me your last name.
Venzloff.
When did you find out that your husband had taken money from the plaintiff?
When she had sent me a message on Instagram asking for me to send her money that he was late on a payment.
And that was in what month?
I believe mid-January she messaged me.
January of 2022.
Correct.
And up until that time, your husband had not told you that he took money from the plaintiff. That's Easy question.
I don't believe so, no.
He had not. Well, that's what it sounded like. You didn't know about it because the first you heard about it was when she sent you a message. So he had not told you that he took money from her before. Now, when you found out, you confronted him about this, did you take money from the plaintiff?
I did.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that he had to pay for rent that month.
Were you living together?
We were already married.
Were you working?
I was.
So you were working, and he was working. He was making money. So if you're the wife, you say, what do you mean? We need money for rent. I'm working. You're working. What's it all about? Did you know he had a drug problem?
That was when I found out.
Okay. Well, that's a fair question. I like the honesty. Did you have discussions with him about that?
Yes.
Did he go into rehab?
Yes.
Great. When did he go into rehab?
He went for a week in December into a detox, and then he went for a month this last June, I believe.
Because he had a relapse?
Yes.
How long was it in June?
30 days.
During December and June, had he ever been arrested?
No.
So he did this voluntarily?
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Take a breath. All fine. Your husband owes her $1,800. That's what she's suing for. That's what he owes her. He knows he owes her that money. She was doing a good thing. She was being kind to him. And probably, ultimately, if he stays clean, saved his life. Mm-hmm. Reasonable, because but for that, you wouldn't have found out. You wouldn't have forced him to take some action. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Do you have a drug problem?
I don't know.
Does your father still not like him?
They're best friends.
They're best friends?
Yes.
Interesting. I'm absolutely shocked. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,800. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I thought that she handled it very well. I didn't need to go over all the details. She did that all for me.
Honestly, it was a trade agreement, which it clearly states in the first part, so I had the entire year.
I don't think that he could have sent me the payments. I had to keep
to either pay her back or train her, and she served me before the contract was even up.
Crying and messaging him for it. I think court was where it needed to be settled.
All she wanted was the money back, but I told her I was completely available. Then she moved out of the area.
He's a great trainer, absolutely amazing trainer, hands down. Borrowing money, not the smartest decision.
Well, I think he could have handled the situation differently, but I think he was trying to do his best to get us out of a sticky situation.
I think it's about time to find someone else.
I remember my law school days, Sarah. Not clearly, but I remember my law school days. And you know how important it is. I always say you should have a writing, mm-hmm. but you're supposed to have a writing that's clear. And I know that there's a rule of law that if a contract or an agreement mm-hmm. is ambiguous, that a third party can't figure out, fact finder can't figure out what the intent of the parties was. Was it a training agreement, mm-hmm. which is what he said, which is a lot of baloney? Was it a loan that you're allowed to go beyond that contract? Mm-hmm. So your experience in law school is much closer.
I did just study this. So it's true that if a fully integrated agreement, meaning that it's clear, the meeting of the minds between parties is clear to a third-party fact finder, then usually outside evidence is not allowed because you clearly have what the meeting of the minds of the parties was. However, in a case like this, when it's more ambiguous or the terms are ambiguous or you're not quite clear what the meeting of the minds was for, a loan, like you said, or training, you're allowed to bring in outside evidence to gap fill those sort of ambiguous
and to
terms.
Figure out what the intent of the parties was.
Exactly. So for that exact reason, but I can appreciate that she had enough wherewithal to know that she should have something written. Maybe next time she'll make it just a little clearer for a judge.
Thank you.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani are suing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago for medical bills after being hit by a car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2020, Hildreth Mahasani versus Santiago.
Thank you. Miss Hildreth.
Yes.
Pronounce your last name for me, sir.
Mahasani.
Mahasani.
Yes.
You two were crossing the street in San Diego?
In Carlsbad Village.
Is that in San Diego?
It is. It's a suburb of San Diego.
Is that where you live?
Correct, in Carlsbad.
And you were hit by Miss Santiago, who was driving her mother's car.
Correct.
Miss Santiago acknowledges that she hit you. And you were seriously injured. You've had shoulder surgery. You were both injured.
Correct.
When did this happen?
This happened on Friday, September 4th, 2020.
I just have a couple of preliminary questions before I get into the facts of it.
Sure.
I assume that since this accident happened in 2020, that you tried to sue either the defendant and or her mother as the car's owner.
Well, we would have done so, but the driver was uninsured.
That's the question. You would have done so, except the mother had no insurance.
It is my knowledge that the mother had insurance, but and which I have the evidence, that her daughter was excluded from the policy.
The policy, and therefore the insurance company disclaimed.
Correct.
I'd like to see that.
Absolutely.
That's why your mother's not here.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that's why your mother's not here, Miss Santiago.
Without her knowing.
Miss Santiago, that's why your mother's not here.
No.
Well, were you excluded from the insurance policy? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes.
Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
Yeah, I know.
Just a second. Then you shouldn't have been driving the car.
I took the car.
I don't want to hear some pat answer from you. Do you understand? That's why your mother's not here.
Well, it was
I didn't ask you a question. I didn't
and I took
ask
the car
you.
without
Do you understand?
permission.
They don't listen to you when I'm speaking. When I ask you a question, you'll answer me. I don't want to hear some pat answer. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries. I want to hear a lot of I'm sorries.
Why would I say I'm sorry if they didn't pay attention when they were crossing?
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But I was paying attention.
You weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car.
But why they didn't pay attention?
I'm not speaking to you. I just told you why. Why should I say I'm sorry? Hey, be quiet. Why should I say I'm sorry if they weren't paying attention? Because you weren't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. If you weren't behind the wheel of a car, whether they were paying attention or not would be irrelevant. You weren't supposed to be driving. She thinks you have a big mouth. You don't have a bigger mouth than me, madam. I guarantee you, the last person who drove yesterday that wasn't supposed to drive yesterday because they were drunk, killed six.
Drunk.
Nobody's listening to you. When I'm speaking, nobody's listening to you. Killed 6 people. Last person who drove that wasn't supposed to be behind the wheel of a car killed 6 people. You were not. Hey,
drunk.
I'm speaking. You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. Don't you understand that?
I understand.
Are you
that.
stupid? You were not supposed to be behind the wheel of a car. You were an excluded driver, and you were an excluded driver for a reason.
Not only that, you're.
Just a second. Don't speak. Now I'm going to read and calm myself down. I don't like my blood pressure to get too high. I just don't like stupid. Our investigation, which is after you notified the insurance company, determined that the driver of the insured's car, Jennifer Ramirez, was not covered by the policy. That's what you told me.
Correct.
I don't understand this. You were walking, correct?
Correct. Both.
What is this? Your driving privileges will be suspended on November 21st. What is that?
I think there was a misunderstanding that we were actually driving a vehicle. Yeah. And when I called the DMV and I explained that, no, we're actually pedestrians, then they said, oh, I'm sorry, disregard that.
Yeah.
Stupid.
And
do you have a letter from them indicating that this is wrong?
They just told me that we can disregard it, and they just corrected it. That's all they did.
And it was stopped because she was also unlicensed?
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not there with Big Mouth. Okay. This happened on September 4th, 2020. What time of the day?
It was in the evening.
What time?
Was about 8 p.m.
It was, around 8 o'clock.
Light or dark outside?
Dark.
Is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Santiago, is that a fair and accurate representation of the intersection where this happened?
Yes.
So at the intersection where this happened, there were lines across the highway indicating pedestrian walkway.
Correct.
And there were 2 signs indicating pedestrian walkway.
There were 3 signs. One in the center median and 1 on each side.
On September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
Lisa Hildreth, and Reza Mahasani claim 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago struck them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license. Jennifer says they were not paying attention and walked into oncoming traffic.
Now, on September 4th, Ms. Santiago, this requires a yes or a no answer from you. On September the 4th, 2020, did you have a valid driver's license?
I didn't, Your Honor.
I said it's either a yes or a no. Did you have a valid driver's license?
No.
Did you ever have a valid driver's license?
No.
Do you have a valid driver's license today?
No, Your Honor, because they...
That's a no. What's your name?
Vanessa
What?
Giles.
Stand up. Did you come with her today?
Yes.
How did you get here?
I drove. My license.
Just a sec. You drove?
Yes.
In whose car?
My car.
What kind of car is it?
Kia.
Did you ever drive with Miss Santiago?
Yes.
When? Did you ever drive in a car where she was the driver and you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th, 2020. 2 years ago.
Other than September 4th, 2020, did you ever drive with Miss Santiago where you were the passenger?
Yes.
When?
September 4th.
I said other than September 4th.
No.
Other than September 4th.
Other than that, no.
On September 4th at 7 p.m., 7 p.m., where were you?
We were at the beach. Carlsbad Beach.
Sure, you were at the beach. Who else was at the beach?
Santiago and another friend. He's a minor. He's 16.
There were 3 of you at the beach. Anybody else that you knew at the beach?
No.
How long had you been at the beach?
Like for an hour.
So you got there at 6 o'clock in the evening?
We got there at 7. We were going back home at 8.
So you got to the beach at 7. What did you do at the beach at 7 o'clock?
We were just sitting there, eating, relaxing, having a good time, as teenagers that we were.
Now, did Miss Santiago pick you up or did you meet at her house? Just think, take a breath. Did you meet at her house or did Miss Santiago pick you up?
She picked me up.
How far do you live from her?
2 minutes away.
And what about the 16-year-old minor?
3 minutes away.
Did she pick up the 16-year-old minor?
Yes.
How old was Miss Santiago in September of 2020?
18.
Are you a good friend of hers?
Yes, I am.
You knew she didn't have a driver's license?
Yes.
Did you know why she didn't have a driver's license?
She was still studying for a test.
Had she taken the test before?
Yes, she has.
She had taken the test before.
Yes.
Do you remember how many times?
Yes.
How many times did she take the test?
2 times.
And the 2 times she took the test, she failed it?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So now she's driving without a license because she's failed her driving test twice at the time of this. So she's studying to pass it maybe for the 3rd time, right?
Yes.
And now we have 2 years later, she still doesn't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Do you know why?
No.
Well, you're her good friend. Didn't you ask her? Well, it's 2 years later. Did you ever pass your driving test?
She hasn't yet.
Sit. Now tell me what happened at 8 o'clock on the 4th of September, 2020.
I have pictures if you like, and would it be okay to approach the screen to show you better?
No, it's not necessary. You were crossing the street.
Correct.
In a crosswalk, she hit you.
Correct. We were.
That's what crossing the street in a crosswalk, and she hit you.
Yeah. So we had come to the crosswalk sign on the left side of the photo. We pressed the button. It illuminated the flashing lights to indicate that it was okay to cross. We looked to the left. Those 2 cars were already parked. We proceeded to the middle and noticed that the car furthest, in the furthest lane from us, that car was already parked. So we proceeded, and we were hit.
What happened when she hit? Don't! Hey, don't speak. Hey, listen. For someone who can't take and pass a driver's test 3 times, at least I would keep my mouth shut until I look at you for an answer. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it was estimated by the officer that we...
No. She hit you in a crosswalk. That's a crosswalk. This young lady knew I'm not... Did you hear me? I'm not speaking to you. You don't understand this was a really bad day for this kind of case to come into court. You do understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Good. And you know why this is a very bad day for your case to come into court?
No.
Then you don't read the newspapers. I suggest if you read the newspaper, maybe you would be able to pass your driving test. Because either you failed the written portion or you failed the driving portion, one or the other. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Now we understand each other. Now you're almost at I'm sorry. You're almost at I'm sorry. When the defendant's car struck you, where did you land?
I have photos to show.
I'd like to see it.
It kind of shows on the second photo there.
Oh, you hit her windshield. Who hit her windshield?
We
Is that
both
you?
did,
Both.
Your Honor. And the hood.
That's not true. I only saw that her husband, that he hit the shield. It wasn't her.
What an idiot. Kevin, I would like you to show Miss Santiago that photograph and this one. Can I see the police report, please?
Sure.
See?
No, so,
I'd also like you to show her these. I just want her to take a look at them. To know what happens when you act irresponsibly and you do things that you're not supposed to do, like take a car and drive it when you have no license, when you failed your driving test twice.
Lisa Hildreth and Reza Mahasani are accusing 20-year-old Jennifer Santiago of hitting them in a crosswalk while she was driving without a license.
Okay, your last name is?
Giles?
You spoke to the police that day.
Yes, I did.
I don't know what you're doing here as a witness. She stated she did not see what happened. That's what it says here.
Yes.
Now, just a second. That's what it says here. Uncross your arms. Now you can sit down. Gillis stated she did not see what happened. However, she identified Miss Santiago as the driver. And then there was a witness. Witness 1 stated she was riding as a passenger in a vehicle driving northbound on the 3100 block of Carlsbad Boulevard. The two plaintiffs were crossing the road in a marked crosswalk on the south side of the intersection of Carlsbad Boulevard and Oak Avenue. The two were crossing from the west side of the street to the east side of the street. The yellow warning lights next to the crosswalk were flashing.
they were not.
Witness 1 observed Plaintiff 1 driving northbound towards the crosswalk at a fast speed. She drove through. I'm speaking, not you.
I was not.
I'm speaking, not you. I'm reading from a statement in the police report from a witness who stopped when this accident happened that you don't know. Neither do you. Okay, so now we have a witness who neither one of you know, who said the yellow lights were flashing. Even if they weren't, there's a crosswalk and there are signs that said pedestrian. But this witness says the lights were flashing. Then the officer who did a blood test there for alcohol states as follows. During the investigation, P1, that would be you, displayed objective symptoms of intoxication. I noticed her eyes were slightly red and watery. Her speech was very quiet. I determined P1 was under the influence of cannabis.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Just a second. Do you have any supplementary police reports?
The only other thing that I have from the officer is an email that he...
No. Okay. An email to whom?
An email from the police officer to us.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what you said to the police officer was, and the police officer responded to you, that the report came back negative.
Correct.
And he said, I'm not changing it. Therefore, it's not a criminal matter. You have to sue her civilly.
Correct.
Because clearly the accident was her fault.
Correct.
Were you taken to the hospital that day?
We both were.
And you were taken to jail?
Yeah.
When was the last time you took a driving test? Month and year.
I haven't taken no driving test.
When was the last time you took a driving test, madam? You failed twice. So I want to know when the last time was that you took a driving test.
I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Did you take a driving test in the year 2021?
Yeah, I did.
Did you pass that driving test?
No.
Was that your third or fourth driving test?
That was the second.
No, you took two, according to your friend, before 2020.
I know.
So I asked you, in 2021, did you take it? You said yes, you didn't pass it. And I asked you, was that the third or the fourth test that you had?
That was my second.
No. I don't know how much more that a court system can do, but to say to people who don't have driver's licenses, especially in your case where you tried to get a license but failed to pass on at least 2 occasions before this incident, which means that you were a risk to be on the road because you couldn't pass a driving test twice before this incident. Now you want to tell me whether you, and this requires a short answer, not one of your long ones. Did you have your mother's permission to take the car that day to pick her up and go to the beach?
No.
Have you ever had your mother's permission to take the car and go anywhere?
No.
So in effect, if you had no license and you didn't ask for permission, then you stole the car.
No.
What do you mean no? You
did.
didn't have permission of the owner to take the car. You weren't a licensed driver. Therefore, there was no insurance. Well, let's go back. Did you ever ask your mother to use the car?
No, not at all.
And what happened after you had this accident in your mother's car and after you got out of jail? What happened between you and your mother?
Well, she was sad because I was in jail, and well, she was also mad because, like, why would I take the car without her permission?
Why did you take the car without her permission?
Well, I honestly didn't thought that this would happen.
Nobody thinks that an accident is going to happen. I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people.
No.
I don't think you intentionally hit these 2 people. Are you ready to say I'm very sorry yet?
Yeah, I told them we have talked before, I told them that I was sorry, and I'm telling them again that I'm sorry.
Good. That's better. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I'm really pleased with the judge's decision.
I didn't see anything until the guy hit the windshield.
We have a young child, so we understand that the driver was young and mistakes happen.
I started screaming and I was scared.
For about 3 hours in the hospital, I didn't know if she was going to live or die, basically.
I was so scared, like I just stayed there. I was in shock.
It's been rough.
I told them that I was sorry that the accident happened.
I had like internal bleeding in my arm. I have loss of range of motion in my hand.
Well, I didn't even went to see them because I was so scared.
It was the unluckiest day and the luckiest day of our life. So we're here and we're grateful for that.
I was super scared. Like, I was like, I killed them. Like, I was crying in jail.
We both have to deal with physical injuries, but like Lisa said, it was the unluckiest and luckiest moment of our life, so we're grateful that we're here.
Being pretty close to 18 myself, I can understand driving my father or mother's car and maybe not understanding if they had insurance or me not having insurance myself. So I could understand and sympathize maybe with not knowing whether a car was insured or not. But you know for sure if you went 1 time, 2 times, 3 times and did not pass a driver's test and you don't hold a license in your wallet, at 18, you know whether or not you have a license, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
No one expects an accident. That's the point.
Yeah. I really felt sorry for those 2 people. Out for a stroll, and their life has changed.
Want justice? Go to Judy.
Xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì các bạn hãy cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh về một cô bé đang chơi xích đu nha. Giờ mình sẽ tô màu mái tóc trước nha. Giờ mình sẽ tô chiếc áo nha. Giờ mình sẽ tô chiếc xích đu nha. Và như vậy là bức tranh của mình đã được tô màu xong nhé. Và bức tranh của ngày hôm nay của mình đã đi đến bước hoàn thiện rồi. Thật là nhanh phải không nào? Chúng mình cùng chiêm ngưỡng thành quả bức tranh của ngày hôm nay nha. Video của mình đến đây là kết thúc rồi. Tạm biệt và hẹn gặp lại.